But there's another aspect of the Rebbe that's not talked about a lot, and really for us here, especially in place of Yagdal Teda, where there are Lubavitchers who are trying to learn more of the Rebbe's Teda and to really master it more and appreciate it more. So I thought I picked a subject which was, I think, something very dear to the Rebbe, and it also exemplifies the Rebbe's leadership in Teda as well, and that is that the Rebbe cuts a lot an idea called lishitase. So you find throughout the Gemara, Mishnah Gemara, you find Bala Machlekes, not Bala Machlekes. You find colleagues who are constantly arguing with each other. Rabbi Reuven, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva, Hillel and Shammai, Shmuel and Rav. You have many, many sets that are not that they once in a while argue, but wherever there's an issue, you'll find they take two sides. One will say one thing, one will say another. And very often you can say, or the way most people always learn, it's random. In every situation, there was a reason why they had a machlekes. The Rebbe built on the Rogatchover. With the Rogatchover, always try to find that there's a thread that goes through, weaves through all these machlekes that really they're lishitase. Really, each one in any area of Teda, whether it be in Shabbos, whether it be in Yontif, whether it be in Mamanis, in money matters, whether it be in Karbanis, whether it be in Tadar, whether it be in Isser, whatever it is, there is a theme that weaves through all the machlekes. By one always takes this position, one takes always that position. What is the idea of the Lishitase? It's not just some great, for the Rogatchover, it wasn't just some great wisdom to say, I figured out a little bit, dug a little deeper, and I figured out a principle that they followed. But really, to the Rebbe, this meant a lot more. And this was that after Teda, that Teda is one. Teda is not just a book of halachas, discussions, halachas, which are touch upon many mitzvahs, and each mitzvah has many details. And you have to know the details, and they're pratim. To the Rebbe, it was all one. The whole Teda is one. Hashem is one, the Teda is one. The Avodas Hashem, we talk about Avodas Hashem, is Avodas Teda. And the Rebbe emphasized this often, that Tzemach Tzedek, how the first one to weave together, Nigla and Chassidus. There's a second other place that Tzedek used to always connect Gemara and Chassidus and Kabbalah. That sometimes question one will be answered by the others, by question Nigla will be answered in Chassidus, Chassidus will be answered in Nigla. Why? Because it's after Teda. The Teda is one. The Teda is not just multifaceted. The Teda is really comes from after Hashem, after Teda. And therefore the Lishitase is as well. When they go in the one way, it's because every part of Teda is the same. And someone who learns Teda, who connects at that level, in every area of Teda, it's going to be expressed that it's really one way of looking at Teda. One way of learning, one way of looking at Teda, one way. So today, I wanted to talk about Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva, two great colleagues. Many know Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is very well known. Rabbi Shmuel was a chaver Rabbi Akiva, and they were the leaders in their generation. But yet we find throughout always constantly arguing. And we're going to talk a little bit about what are some of the arguments. We're not going to bring all of them. What are some of the arguments, and what is the thread that weaves through all of them? And specifically, I showed Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Akiva because it's also negeya to our whole approach to understanding our connection to the world, how we have to live as a yid in this world. So, you have the paper. We'll bring down. I pieced together the few Marmakemis just yesterday after I came back from New York. And that's some Hebrew, some English. I just took off the internet what I could take. It's not things that... So, we'll read... I want to read the first two. So the Mishnah says, the Mishnah Psachim, last Mishnah Psachim, Berach Birchas Pesach, Pater Shazam. We're talking about that in every Yom Tif, you have to bring a carbon, Karma Shlam. You have to bring a Karma Chagiga. You have to bring a carbon that for coming to the base of Mikdash, you have to bring a carbon. On Pesach, you have to bring a second carbon, which is carbon Pesach. Carbon Pesach. So now you have to bring two carbonas together. So the Mishnah says like this: if you made a bracha on the Birchas Pesach, Pater Shazam. Made a bracha on the carbon Pesach, so automatically it's matter the bracha on the other carbon. So meaning, even though each carbon has its own bracha, you have to make when you're involved with it, when you're eating it. But here, when you make the bracha on the Pesach, it already includes as well the carbon. But let's say you made a bracha first on the carbon, other than the carbon chagiga. So then, like Pater Shal Pesach, you have to make another bracha when you eat the carbon Pesach. So Pesach is matir, includes the zevach, but zevach doesn't include Pesach. Rabbi Shmuel, this is the word of Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva argues and he says, Kiva says that no matter what, even if you make a bracha on the Birchas Pesach, you have to make a bracha also on the carbon.
What bracha do you make?
Huh? No, the bracha when you're eating it, etc. So what is the reason of the argument? Obviously, both of them hold. Both of them hold the chatchila if you can make a bracha on both. But let's say you made the bracha already on the birchot on the Pesach. So according to Bishmal, that already don't have to make a bracha. That's already included. That's like when you eat bread, you don't have to make a bracha on anything else in the meal. So too, the other carbon is a secondary carbon. So in Pesach, the most important carbon is the carbon Pesach. The other carbon is a secondary carbon compared to Pesach. So the most important already includes the less important. But if you make a bracha on the less important, you still make a bracha on the more important. Rabbi Kiva says, even if you make a bracha on the Pesach, the chagiga has to also make it on the, even though it's less, you would think it's less important. Still no, you have to make a bracha on this one as well. So, what is the basis of the argument? Why are they arguing? Where does it come from? Well, let's learn another Mishnah. This is from Satan, not a Mishnah. It's in the brought down the Gemara. The Gemara is talking about what happened when they crossed over, the whole process of what happened when they crossed over the Yarden. So it says like this: Rabbi Shmuel Leimer. We put that in Tanoi, the Tanya. So it says a certain argument is correct. Another argument of Tanoim. What did we learn in the Brisa? Rabbi Shmuel says, it says, when Eden got the Torah at Har Sinai, what did Hashem give to the Eden at Har Sinai? What part of the Torah? What part of the Torah? So Rabbi Shmuel says the clause, the general rules were given to the Eden at Har Sinai, and many of the pratim of the mitzvahs that were given later, Be'el Meid, Hashem spoke to Moshe Be'el Meid many times. And there he gave him a lot of the pratim. Rabbi Kiva says, Klolos upratis nam b'Sinai. Rabbi Kiva says, no. And Har Sinai Hashem gave every part of Torah. Yes, it's me. I didn't know where else to put it. It's but today everything is closed.
He's non-stop.
Okay. So Akiva says that the Klaus of Pratis Lem B'Sinai, that at Sinai we got the Klaus of Pratim, the Nishna B'Elmayed, and they were not just given the new at the Elmayed, they were repeated later again to Moshe Elmayed when Hashem came to him in the Mishkan. And when they came to Avodas Hashem, Hashem again repeated all the. It was again repeated all of the pratis and the klaus. So again, this is a machlokes ben metzias. This is a question. Generally in Gemara, Mishnah, you don't have an argument what happened because it either happened this way, or happened that way. So we always try to somehow find that there's no argument with metzias. The argument is in ideas. What's the halacha? What's the detail? But here we find that they're Pashat arguing on what happened. What Hashem say at Har Sinai? What Hashem say in Elmayed? And again, why do they take this position? So we're going to learn the next two, and the next two, the Rebbe has a beautiful sikha on these two, and this will help understand how the Rebbe explains what's going on to Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Akiva. So the next two, it's in English here, but the next two are connected to Matan Torah. So the two machlokes will connect to Matan Torah to Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Akiva. Rashi in Torah brings down in one place like Rabbi Akiva, in one place like Rabbi Shimon. There was a whole sikha to explain why. How could Rashi hold like two? The one here, one there, if there's a Lishitasa, but that's not for here or for us today. But anyways, so it says Ve'dav Hashem is called Dvarim El Leimer. It says Hashem spoke to the Yidden when the Yidden stood on Har Sinai. The first words of Matan Torah was that Hashem spoke all these words Leimer saying. So the question is, the Mechilta brings this down, says, what is Leimer? Usually when it says Hashem speaks to Moshe Leimer, Hashem speaks to Moshe Leimer to say, to give it over to the Jewish people, to Bnei Yisrael. But by Matan Torah, everyone was standing around Har Sinai. Hashem spoke to Asar Sedibus, everyone was there. So who is Leimer? Who is it supposed to be given over to? So there are many answers given. The Mechilta brings down, Leimer means that the Yidden responded back. So when Hashem spoke the words of Matan Torah, the Dibras, the Bnei Yisrael Leimer said something back to Hashem. What did they say back? That they're accepting it. That every commandment Hashem is giving, they're accepting. But what did they answer? So here we have an argument of Rabbi Rabbi Akiva. So everyone agrees that they responded to positive commands by saying, Hein, hein. Everyone agrees that when Hashem said, Anoich Hashem Elokecha, a positive commandment, you have to believe in Hashem. The Yidden said, hey, yes, we will follow. Hey, yes, we will follow. However, with regard to negative commandments, when it came to Leisa said like Lo Yilachalakim Achedim, or all the other Leisa said the negative commandments, so there Rabbi Shimon Akiva have different opinion. According to Rabbi Shmuel, they said Val Lav Lav. On a negative commandment, they said no, we will not transgress. But Rabbi Akiva says, however, maintains that they said Allah Hain. Even for a negative commandment, they even said Hain, we will listen. So it's a play on words. I mean, the Yidden were responding to Hashem, telling we're accepting what you're telling us. What's the difference if they said Lav for negative commandment, we won't transgress, or they said Hain, we will listen? It's a play on words. But yet there's a machlekes. There's an argument of what they said. And the Mechilta, a few sukkim later, has another argument from Rabbi Akiva about another thing that happened by Har Sinai. What is that? So it says in the title of it says that all the people saw the sounds and the fire, the flames. So Rabbi Shmuel says that what did they see? Did they see the voice, the sounds, or did they see the flames? So Rabbi Shmuel says that the Jews saw what is usually seen and heard what is usually heard. that even though the Torah writes by B'cholam Royim, right before the word Toilus sounds, Royim really applies to the word afterwards, Lapidim. That what they saw was the flames. So they saw the flames and they heard the voice. That's what Rabbi Shmuel says. While Rabbi Kiva holds that they saw what is usually heard what usually. Rabbi Kiva says no. The Torah is literal. Royan means they saw the voices. And the Lapidim, the flames, they heard. So what happened in Har Sinai was that there was a tremendous ness. That usually the eyes are able to see something physical in front of them, and the ears hear something you cannot see. But here happened the opposite according to Rabbi Kiva. You saw the voice and you heard the flame. So what does it mean? It's a very nice, cute thing. The first of the question is, Hashem doesn't make a nest for nothing. Hashem never makes this for. So why would Hashem make a nest? Big enough nest that the Yidden heard Hashem speak. Why does Hashem make a nest that's unneeded? That we'll see what's heard, we'll hear what's seen. What's the point of it? And actually the question is, according to Rabbi Shmuel, it's obvious that we hear what we hear and we see what we see. Why does the Torah have to tell us? Royim is lapidim. What's the Torah trying to emphasize? So here, the Rebbe explains very beautifully by explaining what does it mean seeing and hearing. It's obviously seeing with us. You see with your eyes, you hear with your ears. But what does it really mean seeing and hearing? So seeing and hearing represent something very different. When you see something, you are so sure of the thing that you saw that no one can ever tell you it didn't happen. If you saw standing and you saw someone give something to someone else, or you see two cars crash with each other, someone say never happened. What do you mean never happened? I saw it with my own eyes. What do you mean never happened? Sure it happened. Now, if we're sitting here giving a shiur, and I tell you something, and then later someone will tell you, what did you hear? It's not true. The opposite is true. You know, you start thinking, maybe they're right. Maybe it's not true. Why? Because seeing means it's much more sure by you. When you see something, it's clear, it's absolute. When you hear, it's like a distant thing. That till someone can maybe knock it off, you'll live with what you heard. But the minute someone gives you a better argument, you start doubting what you heard. So it's less sure. But it's like from a distance. The seeing is almost like it's right in front of my eyes. Hearing is like means a distance. It says in the Torah, Azino Shemaim Vadabeira, Sishma Aretz, right? Even in hearing, it's distant, it's close. Seeing is like close. So the and Shmiya, let's take it out of the physical thing. My eye see and my ear hear.
It's more likely to mishear something than missee.
Exactly. Or even if you hear something well, but it's like you heard from a distance, it's not so sure. You're not so tight to it. So in the Rebbe explains that Ri and Shmiya here is not just about physically seeing and hearing, it represents something else. At Har Sinai, there were two events. What was the main event at Har Sinai? That Hashem, who is not seen, Hashem, who is so distant from us, that our whole connection to Hashem is Amunah, we have to have faith that Hashem exists, His presence was right there where we are. We saw Getlichkeit, we saw godliness like we never saw before. What do you mean we saw godliness? So in life in general, in this world, Gashmiistic things, the worldly things, our need to eat, our need the money, what money can buy, to work, these are things that are very close to us. No one has a doubt that if you don't eat, you're not going to live. Everyone, it's clear. And all the Gashmiistic things that we need in our life, that we're surrounded by in our life, are very clear to us, the necessity and the role that they play. But Ruchnius, godliness, is very removed. Hashem is a distance. We believe in Him, but believe is faith. He's like we believe in something that's far that I don't know. I believe, and therefore someone could come and can maybe convince us to believe less, or maybe not to believe at all, because our belief is not as solid and not as clear and absolute as are the physical things that we relate to and that we interact with, we know clear. It's there and what its effect is and why we need it. So what happened to Matan Torah? So this is the argument of Bishwar Rabbi Akiva. When Hashem came down to Sinai and gave the Torah, what was happening to the Bnei Yisrael at that moment? So according to Rabbi Yishmael, even though Hashem came down at Har Sinai and it was a breakthrough that the Lakus Gedolkeit is coming to this world, but Hashem's purpose in coming to this world was not to break nature. Hashem didn't want to come to this world to break nature. All of a sudden we're going to break the laws of nature and you're going to live in this world as if you're a malach. Hashem came to this world to extend that godliness that in the spiritual world with the Shamas and Malachim is very clearly seen, that even in this world as a human being in your life, you'll be able to feel, you feel godliness in this world. So what did Hashem do, according to Rabbi Shmuel? That he made their sense of seeing and hearing, he penetrated it with godliness. So we saw even godliness, we're able to see the way Hashem comes into this world. Obviously, Hashem comes into this world manifest in something physical. We heard a voice like a human being. So even though Hashem came, but with Hashem godliness now was felt in this physical place. So a human being remained someone who sees and hears, but also my seeing and hearing became much more stronger in Gedolkeit and godliness. So Hashem permeated himself down to this. According to Rabbi Akiva, said, no, that's not what happened. When Hashem came at Har Sinai, Hashem made a big change in the Bnei Yisrael. That at that moment, he gave us the ability to live above a regular physical human being. We're able to see Hashem as the only Metzias, as the only thing that's real. When Hashem did this world, he showed us that physical means nothing. Today, we live a life that's physical, so important. If I don't have food, how am I going to live? If I don't make a living, how am I going to live? We can't even think outside of that box, right? I mean, we can't even imagine. But we stood at Har Sinai at that moment, Gashmis meant nothing to us. It was lowly, it was valueless. Like said the B'Shem Madanim Mitzuyin Kafar. Gashmis will mean nothing. It won't have any value to us. It will have no meaning. So when Hashem came in Har Sinai, Shoymin Etzanira, what was regularly seen and was clear to us as important, absolute, Gashmis became distant. It became something that's, it's there, but it's not important. But Royin es Sanishma, but also Hashem that was distant and only like heard, became so clear to us that Hashem is real. This is his world. There's nothing but Hashem. So that's so Rabbi Akiva is arguing about what was the experience of Har Sinai. Was the experience that we got elevated beyond, above our regular human nature, or Hashem permeated, penetrated, even in our world of Gashmias and Ruchnis, even in our world, that there, you, as a human being that's living and working, you can also feel Hashem. And that's the reason of the other argument also, Hein and Lav Hein, or Hein and Lav. Why does Rabbi Shmuel say that when they came to negative them, they said, no, we won't listen? But according to Rabbi Shmuel, Hashem gave the Torah for us to live as regular human beings, but a heightened level of living, serving Hashem, but as regular human beings. So as a regular human being, when Hashem says, don't do, how do you take? You take, I won't do. That's the normal way human being register something. You say to do, I'll do. You say don't, I won't do. Hein, lav. Yes, no, I won't do. According to Rabbi Akiva, that the whole experience of the Mountain Torah was that we got elevated above and beyond the regular human living. And where we clearly saw, just like the Malachim and the Neshamas, Hashem is the only Mitzvah, is the only real thing. So when you're looking on that level, when Hashem says do something or don't do, that To you, there's only one response. Yes, Hashem, I'm here for you. Because the whole experience was how we felt Hashem. We didn't feel our detailed part of our life. So whatever Hashem says, yes. Because to us, the only interest is Hashem. At this moment, we became one with Hashem. So whatever Hashem says, if He says do or He says don't do, to me, there's only one response. Yes, Hashem. Because that's the only way, the thing that happens, that experience, that we and Hashem became one at that moment. And you come on with Hashem, there's no yes, no, details. It's a total, Hashem totally captured us. You get totally captured, you say yes to everything. So like generally in mitzvahs, you have two parts of mitzvahs. Siddur talks a lot about it. You have one part of mitzvahs is that every mitzvah has a detail. The tefillin has to be put on a certain way. Davening has to be put on a certain way. Everything has a details of what you have to do. And every mitzvah is different. On the other hand, every mitzvah shares one thing, that it's Ratzon Hashem, that it's Hashem's desire. Every mitzvah is Hashem's desire. So if you look at a mitzvah from the point of view, what's the details of the mitzvah, and it's taka a mitzvah, but then you start looking at this, do this, don't do this time, not this time. But if you look at the aspect of every mitzvah is Ratzon Hashem, Hashem's desire. So we look at the mitzvah, everything is, Hashem, I'm with you. Whatever you desire. Because that's what you feel, the desire of Hashem. There are details. Even someone has a desire, wants to do has to do the details. But their heart is not in the details. The heart is in Ratzon Hashem. They're doing what Hashem wants. And it doesn't make a difference what mitzvah it is you're doing. Because if it's a mitzvah, every mitzvah of Hashem, whether it be a small mitzvah, a big mitzvah, to you is the same. Because they're both Ratzon Hashem. So if you pay attention to the details, certain mitzvahs look very important, some mitzvahs look less important. But if you look at the Ratzon Hashem, if Hashem wants it, that's the same wanting for every mitzvah. A wanting doesn't get less or more. So Rabbi Shmuel looked at Hashem, what's Ratzon Hashem? Therefore, hein, lav hein, everything is hein, I'm with you, Hashem. According to Rabbi Shmuel, that about Torah came to live as human beings, then you have to pay attention to the details. That's where it lies. Because how does Hashem permeate this God physical world is when we pay attention to the details that are connected to human life. So that's where the emphasis is. Both of them do both, but the emphasis is more on Rabbi Shmuel, on the detail. And that will help explain the first Mishnah we learned, the Psach. What's the argument? So it's in the midst of Birchas Hanen and Brachas, an important thing is mitzvah, something that's not important. When you're eating food, an important food, like you have like a mixture of two foods, two different brachas, but you make a bracha on the important food, the other important food gets included. That's the way it is when in your personal life when you're eating. But because we're talking about here Karban Pesach and Karban Chagig, they're both karbanas, they're both mitzvahs of Hashem. How could you make a mitzvah secondary to the other? According to Rabbi Akiva, how can any mitzvah ever be secondary? Every mitzvah is Ratzon Hashem, every mitzvah is Hashem's desire. So every mitzvah is important, every mitzvah is holy. It can never be secondary. So therefore you must make a separate bracha for each one. According to Rabbi Shmuel, that even in mitzvahs, you pay attention to the details of some mitzvahs look more important, some look less important. There's a hain, there's a lot. To him, if you make a bracha, an important mitzvah, the other mitzvah is also included. Just like when you eat food. According to Rabbi Akiva, that you only look at the Bala Ratzah, you look at that's the Ratzah Hashem, you're paying attention to the fact that it's coming from Hashem. How could you ever make a mitzvah look secondary? It's impossible. That it can never look secondary. And this is also the explanation of the second mission we learned in Satan, with the Brisa. We brought down how Hashem gave the Torah. If He gave at Har Sinai only the general rules and the details He gave later, or He gave everything at one time. So according to Rabbi Yishmael, that the whole idea of Torah mitzvahs is that Hashem wants it to permeate us as human beings. And we as human beings, we have many parts of it. We have a brain, we have a heart. We have to pay attention to the details. We have to learn first one, and then another, then another. And this thing is more important. This is primary. This is secondary. So according to him, this is the way Hashem gave the Torah as well. The Klalos He told us at Har Sinai. And then He allowed Moshe to get all the pratim, all the details over the 40 years Yidden were in the desert, that that's the way it permeates a human being to stay as a human being, but to live the heightened life for Hashem. But according to Rabbi Akiva, that every aspect and every part of a mitzvah you look at, all the overriding factor is it's Ratzon Hashem. So who cares if it's a detail? Is a detail any less Ratzon Hashem, the desire of Hashem, than I don't know. So therefore, to him, Hashem had to give everything. Yes, it was repeated again because you have to somehow teach you to make sure you get the details again. But it had to be given at Har Sinai, because if it wasn't, that would mean that some mitzvahs are less important. But how can it be less important if our whole idea of mitzvahs is that we're connecting to Hashem? And this is really the thread that goes through all the machlekes of Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Akiva.
Who's the halacha like usually?
Who's
the halacha like? Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon.
Okay, good question. I double check. I don't know if there's a cloud like Shimon, but good question. So here, this is the thread that goes through all the time. Rabbi Yishmael says, Torah comes into your life, the way you are as a human being, respecting that the human being has ups and downs, has on times, off times, has a brain, has a heart, has legs, has a hand. There's many aspects. And Torah came to live in your world. It came to direct and guide you how you should live your life, but it came to live in your world. And therefore, everything has to break down into your world. And that's why we see wherever they're arguing, and I think just two examples I put here, but wherever they're arguing, you see that concept. It has to live in your world. Torah was written for human beings, as human beings. Rabbi Akiva holds, no, the Torah gave us the opportunity to step up and go out of human nature, to step up and to go beyond our nature, beyond to become godly. So not godliness coming down to this world, taking this world and bringing it up to Hashem, stepping above and beyond. And therefore, with the form of like we saw how this permeated. I'll give you another example. There's an argument in Saita, that everyone learned Saita lately by So Saita Dav Gimel, there's an argument.
It brings over
three things. What?
These days with Google. It says over here, Gemara from Brachis.
Yeah.
Halacha Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva mechavei roi. When he's arguing against someone else, halacha is like Rabbi Akiva.
Okay.
And it's Rabbi against him, and we follow the Rabbi.
Okay. But Rashi brings in Matan Torah like one and one like the other.
Okay, but Rashi
okay. Yeah. I'm saying, but it's interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
We'll see some one, and that makes sense. So here, the Gemara says three things. It says three things. Lo yitam. It says by Kohen, a lot of the sisters not married. Lo yitam. So the argument of Shor Rabbi Akiva, Lo yitam is reshut shechayda. If you get that, Kohen, a lot of get become tamei to family. And the question is, the sister's not married. So Rabbi Shmuel says, reshus. Rabbi Akiva says chayda. Rabbi Shmuel says you can, you don't have to. Rabbi Akiva says you must. Then in Tavoidu, you have to enslave the nations of the world. That the nations that you. So he says, Rabbi Shmuel says the reshus. Rabbi Akiva says chayda. If you got a chance to do it, you should enslave them. It's said you have to. The same thing with by kinna, giving kinna, by warning. So Rishmal says, says chayva. So the Gemara wants to make us. The Gemara says there doesn't mean that every word of Rishmal Rabbi Akiva argues the whole Torah is rishus or chayva. Like Rishmal holds every part of the 630 mitzvahs you can do if you want. No. Just these three. Why these three? So what's the point? What's the argument? Why would he say the shit? The Gemara goes into explanation how to read the pasuk. But how do we read the pasuk is secondary to why they were thinking? Why would Rabbi Shmuel automatically say by three things that the Torah is saying if you want, you can. You're allowed to become tamei and have them as servants. And Rabbi Akiva said, no, you have to. But according to what we explained, it's very simple. Rabbi Shmuel says the Torah came to us human beings as human beings. So if the Torah says a mitzvah, it's a mitzvah. But at times the Torah puts in our hands, says, I'm giving you a choice. That you'll decide how you want to behave in this. It's not a mitzvah, but you have the choice. I give you the permission, even though you're calling, you could become tummy to your sister. But it's your choice. So the Torah empowers human beings as human beings to make certain choices. But according to Rabbi Akiva, that the whole Torah was there to help raise us up above and beyond. So if Hashem tells us anything in the Torah, it's to help us become closer to Him. So how can it be Hashem will tell us in the Torah something as the truth you can? What do you mean you can? If Hashem tells us, you have to do it. You must do it. Same thing. There's another argument, another place in the Sanhedrin, which says it brings down. It says that in Bamid says the cut, but someone says the cutters. Twice says the word cut off. You should be cut off. So why did they say a double language? The Torah is not poetic. The Torah is not it's not a song that they like to repeat words. Well, why did the Torah say sometimes two words? So we have an argument there. That Rabbi Shmuel says the kares means that you're to emphasize that kares, that you get in kares. So the Torah gives it the second time it repeats the word is for emphasis. Rabbi Akiva says no, the kares from this world, the kares from Elam Haba. What's the argument? So according to Rabbi Shmuel, that the Torah talks to human beings as human beings, the Torah sometimes has to give emphasis. It wants to tell you that even though kares is something you don't see, Bezdin doesn't carry out. Hashem is the one who cuts your life short. It's real. Emphasis, real. But it's told to human beings. But according to Rabbi Akiva, the Torah doesn't waste words. If Hashem writes a kares, that means that there's something deeper happening here. Because the spirits went against Hashem, you're not only being in this world, but even in the future world, in the Shabbos Tikaris. It happens in both worlds. So now the question is, why did Rabbi Shmuel hold that the Torah is the way it's coming down, the way human beings are, and to live in our life, to permeate every part of the physical world as the physical world is. Rabbi Akiva holds that the Torah is to take us above and beyond. So here we find something interesting. Their backgrounds. Rabbi Shmuel came from a family Kahanim. Yeshloim or something was even a Kohen Gadol. He came from family Kahanim. Generations of the most purest of the pure tzaddikim. Rabbi Akiva came from Gerim, came from converts, and he didn't even learn Torah until he was 40 years old. So what's the difference between them? So Rabbi Shmuel represents a tzaddik. Perfect. He lived in a perfect world. He went through his life perfectly. Rabbi Akiva represented a Baal Tshuva, someone who's coming back. You know, the beautiful story of the Rebbe with a fellow from Belgium. So there's a fellow from Belgium.
Oh, there's two Belgians. Three.
The fellow from Belgium that was the Baal Tshuva Shaatnez. And starts to begin again. The Yiddish guy tefillin and kosher Shabbos. Anyways, at some point, this is in the 80s, I think. At some point, he sort of stopped showing up the Chabaras. Doesn't see him for months. Tried to call once or twice, didn't answer. Surprised. Then one day, he bumps into the street. So he tells the guy, "How are you? And I've seen you so long. What's going on? Is everything all right?" So he said, "Everything is great." And I got engaged. He said, "I didn't even tell us to share the news. And the whole family of Chabad." He said, "She's not Jewish." He said, "You can engage her not Jewish." And she converted to not converted. So right away started to tell, "How can you do this? Look what you've done. You've grown in Yiddishkeit. Hashem also, how do you marry a non-Jewish woman?" They tried to talk to him and it didn't help. So he started to get many of his other fellow shluchim to try, who knew them or whatever, to try to talk. Talks, and this guy says, "I love her, then I'm getting married." So he was really didn't know what to do. So he told him, "Listen, I want you to go to the Rebbe is giving out dollars, and tell the Rebbe that you're marrying a shitzer. And if the Rebbe can't convince you or somebody to start to break up with her, I'm never going to say another word. That's it. So that much, I guess he felt he owed him, and he went to New York, comes to dollars. And obviously he was ready to get a clap on the head, but he gave years, he gave his time. Goes to the Rebbe. And he tells the Rebbe, I'm sure he was nervous. I'm marrying a shiksa. So the Rebbe stops and tells him, I'm jealous of you. Says, like he caught him by surprise, but you're jealous of me? Like, what? The Rebbe says, in life, everyone's born in this world, and during your lifetime, you have to climb the ladder. Like the ladder of Yaakov. You have to climb the ladder to get to fulfill on earth your mission, your purpose. You have to climb the ladder. At the end of your life, you reach the highest level of the ladder you can reach. So someone like me, every day, I live like a Yid, and I hope that through living like Yid, what they have to do, I climb another step in the ladder. Every day I climb a step in the ladder to get there. But sometimes Hashem gives somebody an opportunity that they can, in one decision, jump multiple steps. He says, and that opportunity I never had, but you have that opportunity. Hashem put in front of you a Nisayan, He put in front of you a test, He put the shiksa, all the things you feel that's right for you. It's a test from Hashem. If you fail, you know what it is. But if you withstand the test and you overcome it, and you do what the Torah tells you not to marry her, in that one decision, you can go from the bottom to the top. One decision. I can never do that. The story goes that he broke up with the sheikhs. But what's the point? The point is, a tzaddik and a Baal Tshuva are two different ways of serving Hashem. A tzaddik is tmindik hisidram. A tzaddik's way of serving Hashem follows everything exactly the way it's supposed to be done. There's no extra excitement that at one moment and down at another. It's consistent. Consistently do what you have to do. Consistently move forward. Baal Tshuva is that you're pulling yourself away from one side to come to Hashem, to become dedicated to Hashem. It's never a type of consistency. It's a striving that takes you from one extreme to another. It's a whole different sense of drive, of geschmack. It's the opposite of calm and consistent. It's passionate. It's powerful. That's what Baal Tshuva. So Rabbi Yishmael, everything attended to him had to be fit. What he knew, understood, the way tzaddik's life is. The tzaddik's epitome of a human being is that tvidik kisidron, that Torah is given to us to live in our world, and in our world you have to eat. If you're a tzaddik, you have to eat. You have to sleep. You have to live, and you have to do it with Torah mitzvahs. So therefore, everything to him had to be broken down into normal human behavior, normal human development. So therefore, everything, even when Hashem gave the Torah on Sinai, it was that Torah that came down and permeated even a human being. But it didn't change me that I'm now a whole different. I have to act. I have to strive to be not a human being, to be beyond. But Rabbi Akiva, who represented the idea of the tshuva, so they keep it to him. His whole life was the desire, the thirst to be closer to Hashem. That's what drove him. The desire to be closer to Hashem. And that overriding desire made him the way he looked at Torah. The Torah is it to help you, take you out of your humanity and to make you superhuman, to make you one with Hashem. To connect it to the one who has the ratzon of the mitzvahs, everything. So the whole experience about Torah and every way of Torah he looked at, it must be that it has to be such a commitment that's totally over. And that's what we find here, the last piece in Brachos, the story of Rabbi Akiva. The Rishosha says Rabbi Kiva Ladika, so when Rabbi Kiva was taken out by the Romans to be killed on Yom Kippur, as we know, Zan Kriyashma Haya. It was a time of Kriyashma. Well, Yisarkin, as Psarid Maseka Shabarza. And they were combing his skin with metal combs. And at that moment, he accepted upon himself the yoke of Edevishter. Meaning he said Shema. While they were coming to the place of his tefillin shalish, he said Shema. So Amalei Talmid of his students were forced to watch him. So they said, Rabbeinu Ad Kan. He said, this is how far it goes. That while they're coming, you're going to say Mata Shemayim. How could they both live with each other? They're killing you in the most inhumane way. And this is the moment that you choose to say Shema. Amr Lahem, he said, Kol Yamai Hayisi Mistar Al Pasuk Zeh. My whole life I was pained when I used to read the Shema, because it said B'chol Nafshcha. He said B'chol Nafshcha with all your soul, meaning that you have to serve Hashem with your soul ready to die. I feel Neitel Neshasi, you're ready to die. So Marty every day I read the Shema and it says I'm ready to die for Hashem, but life goes on. I'm not dying for Hashem. So how can I read I'm ready to die when I'm not ready to die for Hashem? So I always ask, will it ever come the day? He was striving, he was hoping there'll be a day when he can prove to Hashem the whole nashma. Now that there came the moment that they're killing me, only because I'm a Yid. Lord, I shouldn't read. Kabbalah said, I shouldn't read the Shema. He said the word Echad until he died. Well, he said the word Echad. Yasa Baska Vamra, then the voice of heaven said, Shech Rabbi Kiva, Shasa Shmascha Echad. That praise you, Rabbi Kiva, that his soul went out with that. So the angel said to Hashem, this is what you do to someone who kept Torah and held up Torah the way he did it. That's a reward. It said that, death taken from this world happens to the enemies of Hashem. So Hashem told them, he says that those who are Rabbi Akiva remain alive, and that's what it says. The neshama remains alive. Only those who their death is the end of their life, and Shoyim and Goyim. And Ashach Rabbi Akiva that you're going straight to Elam. So this is Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva's life was Masa over the other commandment. His whole life was that constant striving. I want to show my connection to Hashem is above, beyond, even if I get over my life. It's not the Torah came to say, wake up in the morning. The Torah says that you have to be over. If you're sick on Shabbos, you have to be over. And and you're following Torah. Rabbi Akiva, everything was, and it's about experiencing Hashem. He did all the details, but everything was about experiencing Hashem. And really, just to finish off, I don't know if I'm over my time or not.
The second one is here already.
Okay. Just to finish off, and this is really, we talk about ourselves. How's our Avodas Hashem? How do we have to live our life? So, Chassidus talk a lot about Tayyur or Tikkun, right? There's the chaotic world, and there's Tikkun. The Tzaddikim generally is Tikkun. Tayyur is a little more of the chaotic world, more Bali Shuvah, is more in the world where it's not about order. It's about very powerful passions. Obviously, Tayyur, the Shviras HaKelim, we're not talking about Shviras HaKelim now, but we're talking about what's the main emphasis. And this is what we see, and we just heard that I love using Rabbi Akiva, that we need to have both. We need to have a bit like Shmuel Rabbi Akiva. On one hand, we obviously need to follow Torah mitzvahs exactly, and remember that Torah was brought here to permeate the world. But the ultimate purpose is, or the drive has to be like Rabbi Akiva. Ultimately, the drive has to be Rabbi Akiva. Says Mashiach will come, the tzaddikim will sit with the Baalei Tshuva. So I'm asking like a kid that we have to be driven by a constant push that it's all about Hashem. It's not about how does Hashem fit into my life. It's about how can I fit into Hashem's world. How do I fit into Hashem's world? How can I carry wherever I go that Hashem, I carry Hashem with me? Whether it's a little mitzvah, whether it's a big mitzvah, whether it's the vacation time, whether it's regular time. How do I carry Hashem with me all the time? And really, this is what the Rebbe tried to do in our generation, with the other generation, is that obviously always the big Hasidim, that they always lived in a different plane. They live with the Rebbe, they live with the Eibishter every moment. You know the famous story with who was it, Rabbi Menachem Willig, who was it? You know, when he was a businessman and when he was making his calculation, then the day of the month he wrote, you know, like they live with Hashem, with money. But the Rebbe took our generation and took all of us. We're not those big Hasidim and all these great things. But yet he wanted that we live every moment, and this is a Hashem moment. Wherever we are, like the Rebbe said, the story, that you're not stuck. If that's what Hashem wants you now, how are you going to serve Hashem here now? We're driven by the overall drive of Rabbi Akiva that every moment that's be Hashem moment. Al Hein Hein, Lav Hein. And Lav Hein also means, because there's a story of Rabbi Akiva, when he was walking with his friends in Makis, and they saw the fox going in the area of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So his friends were crying. Rabbi Akiva was laughing. Why? Because Al Lav Hein. Rabbi Akiva saw negative, he only saw the positive. If he was able to see Hashem in everything, even when they were experiencing something difficult, but Hashem makes everything for the good. And he was only able to see positive. And you know, the Rebbe was the most positive person. Simply as a person, there was no positive person. You read the Rebbe's letters, and it's important to read because the Rebbe writes many letters related to things we live in life, the moments of anxieties and stresses. The Rebbe is the most positive person. Not because by nature that was positive necessarily. Because his whole Avodas Hashem was that Hashem in everything, you see Hashem. He didn't just live it personally himself. He brought us up as Chassidim to be able to see Hashem in everything. See the Rabbi Akiva. In every moment of our life, to see that Rabbi Akiva. So Shakayach. Any questions?
Earlier saying,
we have Rabbi Willig with us. Don't run away.
Where's my car? Where did you put my car? Okay. Didn't realize he has such a police.
Don't worry, I got my chelik already.
It's my fault. I hope they know it's delivering anything.
No special thing. So how do you make it sound like
Recording, so. How are you?
Hashem wants us.
You're never here before.
He wants us like King. He wants us to step up to that level. So that doesn't mean if you want to be that I'm not going to command you because I want you to choose on your own the right thing. So this is not maybe less, maybe more for goodness, but then maybe you find that you have own, you always have to be told what, right? So then told what to do. So then it's not coming from you. You're obedient person. But if you on your own come to see that this is what I have to serve Hashem, come to that means that you are one with Hashem.
So you get a little bit of a harmony.
Or else that's where you prove yourself. Right.
Very good.
Hey, joining us next. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Are you gonna join us? See the other guys. Mary, come closer, Mary. Come sit over here. Yeah, Yossi. You know the fellow who you said the mice about?
I heard the story before, but I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we have Rabbi Menachem Willig, the Rebbe at Young Israel of Montreal. Thank you for being with us today. It's about 8, it's not about Tammuz now. We started the morning with there was 30 people here, but Avodas Hashem. I hope this was the right Seder because I did it according to your numbers. Is it okay? Okay. I mean, I followed 1 to 5.
Ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, so I'm going to start. You don't have this. We're going to learn really one piece of Sefer Daniel, a couple of psukim. I think there's a global lesson to take out of it. There's a Rashi further in Daniel, where Rashi in Sefer Daniel there are in 5 places there is the case. There is some kind of cryptic allusion to when the end has to be. So there's a Rashi in Kapitel Ches in Daniel, Pasuk Yudalid, where you see it says Ad Erev Boiker Alpayim U'Shloish Meis, evening, morning, 2300. Where you see Pesach B'Shem Rabbeinu Sadiel L'Davar U'Kvar Avar. Rashi says I saw an interpretation from the Psad going, and that interpretation is already passed.
So what's the lotion in the pasuk?
Erev Boiker Alpayim U'Shloish Meis.
Okay. So Rashi's on that.
Rashi's on that pasuk.
Okay.
Rashi says that I saw an explanation for Reb Sadia, and that time is already passed. Upasar oid ad erev boiker ad sheyovoy oisay erev shenema boy v'hoyal eis erev yiyeh oyer, which is then a totally undefined time. It's just a nevuah of what will be in the future. Ubetuchem anu kidivrei Elokim Elokeinu yakum v'olam v'lo yufar. V'ani oimer ki ha'erev ha'boiker amar kan gematriyahu v'yesh smach l'dover mishnei taimim. Rashi says it's a gematriya, and Rashi says like this. The Navi was instructed to seal and conceal the matter. it was only revealed in a hidden and sealed manner. Rashi says the Yisod. Rashi says that we have permission to try to learn the psukim, and if the time passes, so then we know that we did not get it right. Now, Rashi doesn't, I don't think, means that it's wrong. It means that it could have been the pshat, and it didn't actually work out that way. I have a source for what I'm saying. The Ramban, Sefer HaGeula, explains that many of the Nevuos in Yeshaya, which refer to the Melech HaMashiach, were purposely given to Yeshaya Navi in a way that they could also refer to Chizkiyahu HaMelech. In other words, Chizkiyahu could have been the Moshiach. It says, and it didn't happen. They didn't get to where they needed to get to. And then the Nevuah goes on the Melech HaMashiach. So the Ramban says the Nevuah was purposely given in a way that it could refer to this and it could refer to that. So in other words, when Rashi says that we know that he made a mistake, it means that that's not the Pashut shot in the Pasuk, because that's not the way it worked itself out. So, in other words, Rashi is really troubled. The Gemara says that it's like in the middle of the Amud. Amr of Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amr of Yochanan. Tipach atzman shamachashvei kitz. The essence of those that calculate the end should suffer agony. Shahi oimrim kivan shegias haketz v'loy bo shuv einoi bo. What's the problem with being the chashiv kitzin? Problem is that when it doesn't work out, so then there's a yish. There's a yish, and you lose the tzipisa Yeshua. Ela hakelo shenemar. Pasuk says it's in the Nevuah. Im yisramayach hakelo. Shem atoimar on the mechakim v'hu einoi mechaket. V'loim elochein yechaka Hashem l'chanenfem. V'lochein yoram l'rachanechem. So there's a chikui from us. There's a chikui from Rebbe Shloim. The problem with Mechash V'Kitzin is when a person thinks that he taka knows. So Rashi says that to learn the Parshanas HaMikra, that we have permission to learn the Parshanas HaMikra, and that's not a contradiction to being Mechakel Leketz, because we know that we're making a suggestion as to what the Pasuk might mean, but we're not authoritatively saying that we know when it is, and then if it passes, so then there's a problem. The story with Rabbi Yankov, he's a Rav.
Well, you're always left with moving the goalpost, basically.
You're gonna always have to come up with a shot where the time is still in the future.
No, and it can still create years. Okay, we're makash at the wrong time. It's really
the attitude is different. The attitude is not that we think that we know. The attitude is that we're learning Mikra, and we're trying to understand what it might mean. Not that we think that we know. Let's look at another Gemara. Fascinating piece of Gemara.
By the way, stop. According to Chassidus, every cat staka happens. Norvos in different dargas.
Okay.
There's different gilui in different dargas that happen.
That could be an approach, but I don't think the pasuk is talking about a gilui. The pasuk is talking
No, 100%. 100%. I'm just saying, like there is, like every cat, because we have many kitzim from many of
So
the.
Our nusach, the way we say it is that it was a time when it could have been like Bikash Hakadosh Baruch Hu last is Chizkiyahu Mashiach,
Right.
and it didn't happen.
Uh-huh.
Now,
Okay.
of course, it could be that all of those things are building blocks towards the ultimate good. Everything all has to come together. Yeah. So it's on the bottom, like the third wide one. Turn around one.
It's the next page.
Yodin Hashem Anoy, ki yira ki ozlas yod ve'efes otzur va'ozer. Ein ben David ba, ad sheyirgu an the Davar acher ad sheyismatu al talmidim. Davar acher ad shetichapru min hakis. Davar acher ad sheyisyashu min hagul. Shenemar ve'efes otzur va'ozer. Kaviyochel ein soymech va'ozer Yisrael. So now, all of these things that the Gemara talks about seemingly are the conditions that Chazal knew the Ruach Kodsham would come before the advent of the cats, right? But what does it mean actually? That sounds like something negative. Yush min ha'geula is not a good thing; it's a bad thing. So you could learn in the Gemara that the Gemara means that yes, it is a bad thing, but the state of affairs will be that bad thing will come to pass. Could read the Gemara that way. Well, let's read further in the Gemara, and you see that you really can't read the Gemara that way. You hear what I'm suggesting. You could understand the Gemara that it's not a positive development. It's just the reality of what's going to be.
That's what I'm saying. My question is like,
Azor
people
Vet
moving the goalposts.
It will be like that people will be in a state of Yish, not because they're supposed to be in a state of Yish, but they just will be. Right? But then the Gemara says, Kiha, the Gemara illustrates actually Yisrael Shuman Akula. The Reb Zeira ki have a mashkach Rabbanon de Ma'aski Bey. Reb Zeira, when he found the Rabbanon being Isaac and the cats, Omar Lahu, he said to them, B'matusa, and do me a favor, B'ina minaychu, I'm asking from you, Loi tirachakuha, don't push it away. Don't be merachik it. Titinina, we learned in a brayse, Gimel Boyim Be'esach Hadas, Elohim Mashiach Mitziyah V'Akra. There are three that come Be'esach Hadas, Mashiach, Mitziyah, V'Akra. So the Mashal talks about the three things. The Mitziyah is a good thing that comes Be'esach Hadas. Akra is a bad thing that comes Be'esach Hadas. Mashiach, it depends if we're ready or not. If it will be an Akra, if it will be a Mitziyah. Okay, but the Gemara seems to be saying that Zayra asked the Rabbanon, there was something that Rabbanon were doing that is a contradiction to Yisya Yishum and Agula, and he was asking them not to do it because you need to have Yisya Yishum and Agula. So it doesn't sound like the pshat is that Yisya Yishum and Agula is a unwanted state of affairs. It sounds like it's a positive thing. We need to come to a place where we're misyayish min agula. That sounds like it's wrong. How would you understand that? You see in the Hemshech of the Gemara?
Misyayish min agula is a good thing to happen, even though
it's a necessary prerequisite. It sounds like from the Gemara, from the Bzeira, it seems that it's a necessary prerequisite. And yet to us, it seems like it's a disaster. It's the worst thing. It's a steer to our whole emunah.
If you learn the Gemara, doesn't it push away your year? Because you know that you can never get to years because you always know that you're going to have.
Okay, but there is something called Yisyaishum in Agula, which is a necessary prerequisite, not just an unfortunate circumstance, but a necessary prerequisite.
Which is the part of Hesach Hadas.
Right, and that is right. That is
understand what the pshat
is
is.
Expressed in the Bryce of Hesach Hadas. How do you understand this?
Right. Okay.
So what I'm going to share from you is from the Joseph Leibloch. It tells you was called the Alter Rav. He was nifter in 1950. He was from Blazer Gordon's Eidim. There were three Rosh Yeshiva and Tells and Yom. There was Blazer Gordon who created the yeshiva. There was a son of Joseph Leibloch. And then the last Rosh Yeshiva was the one that we have heard of Gifta speak. Sure, he talks about the tells you know. So that's Rabbi Leib's son. That's Rabbi Yitzchak Bloch. So this in Tells he's called the Alter Rav, Rabbi Yosef Leib.
Mayor.
He
came to America or no?
No. They once made a seminary.
They came after Shanghai.
They made a seminary in Tells called Yavne. And they came to the Chafetz Chaim and they asked him, Chafetz Chaim said, if Yosef Leib is involved, it's kosher. They don't need to do any investigations. It's a kosher. So he explains like this. He explains that Yush could be understood in two ways. Yush could be understood as a state of mind, or Yisyaishim Agula means from actively doing something, thinking that will, so to speak, coerce the Rebbe Shalom to bring the Geulah. In other words, we speak of the Rebbe Shalom, we call the Rebbe Shalom, the Shem Havaya is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Rebbe Shalom is Haya, Hoive V'Yiyah. What does it mean that we talk about the Rebbe Shalom as Yiyah? What do we know about the Rebbe Shalom Yiyah? So we know the Rebbe Shalom is eternal, but we're professing that the Rebbe Shalom is Yiyah. We are in Hoive. We don't exist in the future. What it means is that we see the Rebbe Shalom as the architect of a plan for the world that has a past and a present and a future. And everything in the world is moving to that future. So the question is, what is our role? So he's understanding that what Chazal say, She'yisyaishu min agula, doesn't mean from the Geulah coming. It means from being the active, we're going to do this. And I heard once from another God, he said that, today when things happen in the world, so everybody wants to know, why did Hashem do that? Right? So he said, why do you want to know why Hashem did that? Because you want to know what you have to do. And then you could kick the Rebbe Shalom back out of the picture. Right? You want to live without the Rebbe Shalom, but he's making trouble for you. So just tell me what I have to do, and then things could go back to normal. It's a famous joke. Yankel Galinsky said that a Maggid once came in Europe and gave a Russia about the Geula, and the farmer comes home and he tells his wife that what the Maggid said. And she said, but we have a farm, and we have a cow, and goats, and chickens. She has a better idea. Mashiach should come and should take all the guy into Eretz Yisrael. So it's a joke. I tell my father that's a joke, but we're laughing at ourselves. That's really our picture also. So it tells Rebbe explaining that's what it means. It has to come. The Hesed Chadas means it comes by divine design, not by human design. That's what it means. It means there's a famous story about Tachida. I don't know how to fit the story with the Gemara, because they decided that they were going to bring Mashiach, and they went in, they kaddish themselves, they retired themselves, they were saying Shemus, there came a big dog, and there was a big Bahala. The Chida went into Golos because of that story, and ran away from Eretz Yisrael, and for the rest of his life he was wandering around Europe, officially as a Meshulach for the Meistus in Eretz Yisrael, but the story behind it was this story. So the way the tells Rav is understanding, the Gemara is telling us not to do things like that. Okay, so I want to learn one Rashi.
Right, so it's not the word is that it's not a stira to a chakel.
Means the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to bring it, and it will happen.
You have to
explains that the Navi talks about the Ita Achishana.
Right.
So there are two kitzim. So he said Achishana doesn't mean that it's going to come early. Achishana means that if Klal Yisrael are holding by the Madrega earlier, it will come. The Ita means that at any rate there is a hard stop. The Rebbeinu Shalom will make sure that we're holding on that Madrega at some point. That's the case of the Ita. But it's his job. In other words, we're not instructed to, so to speak, twist his. This other brother was saying that we look at B'tachan as a very powerful tool to twist the Rebbeinu Shalom's arm to give us what we want. That's the exact opposite of what B'tachan really is. B'tachan really is to live with what the Rebbeinu Shalom gives us, not to. Is that
but then they say the Mitzvah,
No. I don't have to say Shemus to bring Mashiach. I have to work on Tikkun Atzmai, which then is a piece of what we call Tikkun Olam.
What the Eibusha sets up.
Not directly that we're going to do A, B, C, and D, and then he's going to have to.
Right.
He does what he wants. That's what he's saying. Yisayishim Nagula means from thinking that we have override. We're going to, so to speak, force the Rebbeinu Shalom to do what we want him to do for us. I feel that in the world today, mamish today, there's a certain, something happens like the story in Iran, right? And then it's supposed to come and it didn't come, and there's like, everyone has a pshat and a gemara and a raya, and it's mamish now, and then it didn't happen. And there's a certain despondency that people have. It's the wrong hashkafa. That's not the way we look at things. It could be that something is beginning to materialize, but it doesn't change our job. So I just want to learn one. The first case is in Parak Zayin. I gave you a Rambam. I'm going to read I gave you a Rambam and a Medrash. I'm just going to read the pasuk. The first time that it gives a number, it says like this: you don't have that. This is a pasuk in Daniel Kapitel Zayin pasuk Kafei. They're going to be delivered into the hands of this oppressor. So that's the case. A time and times and a half a time. So what does that mean? Time and times and half a time. So Rashi gives a shot. In other words, it's deliberately obtuse, right? It doesn't say what it means. So Rashi says that all my predecessors each had a pshat, and they're all passed. In other words, by Rashi's time already, all of those interpretations had already passed. There's a number of 1,335 at the end of Daniel. Ashrei HaMachakeh.
Upirish hamoyed at ace, shnei itim v'chatzi ace, 2 times and a half a time. V'amar shoha itim heim dalid meyeh supei, 480. Shemi yomtei sami mitzrayim at shedivna habayis. It was 480 years from the time they left Mitzrayim till the Beis Hamikdash was built. V'dalid meyeh v'es mei mikdash rishon arei tof tzadi. So if you add the 480 and the 410 of the first Beis Hamikdash, you have 890. It was 850 years from the time they came to Eretz Yisrael till the Churban Abayis, when they shamt them the Aretz, right? They were kicked out 2 years before it came to Abed to Abdun. So it was 890 years. So in other words, he's learning that Edon is a time, the Edonin is another time. The Plag Edon is half of the combined time. So it's 480 and 410 is 890. And half of 890 is 445. Harei Elef is 1335. As Eila Tachshoiv me'es husar atamed akshuv zevach atamed am kaimai, v'husar sheish shanim lefnei achurban, v'yesh k'tzas raya b'sefer zeh. So Rashi's calculation is 1335 years after 6 years before the Churban, which was in the year 6. So the Churban was in the year 69 of our count. So if you start from the year 63 and count 1335 years, so Rashi said that the case is 1390.
That also passed.
That also passed, right? Now for us, that also passed already. So the Malbim notes that also passed. And the Malbim offers a different explanation of Edon, Edonin, and Plag Edon. He said Edon is a time. The Edonin is 2 of that time, so 3. And Plag Edon is half of the 3 together. What is the time? So he says it must be a time that we're familiar with. So he says it's either 400, which is the Galus Mitzrayim, or it's 410, which is the years of the Bayis Rishon. So if it's 400, so it's 1200 and another 600 is 1800. Would have been 1863. So that was like probably a few years in the future of, right? Or he says it's 410 times 3 is 1230, plus another 1615 is 1845. So that would give us 1912, something like that, right? So the Malvin tried to make it
A little later.
as close to where he was as possible, but a little late. But now the problem is that it's also past, right? So I'm going to offer a suggestion of what I'm going to build on the Malvin, but I'm going to offer a different time, and I'll tell you why I have that theory that that's the time. And I think that there's something that we could take out from it, even if it's wrong. The idea itself is very useful. I'm going to suggest that the time is 440 years. So we're going to add 443 times to 1320, and then half of that is 660. It's 1980. So if you add 1980 to 63, it's 2043. So it's still in the future.
Okay.
Too long. It's too far away. Okay. Now, why am I suggesting that that's the number? So let's learn the Rambam together. In other words, I'm using the Malbim's understanding of Edon, the Edon, and the Flag Edon. That it's
What was the Malbim? What was his
Malbim said
total?
that the Edon is either 400 or 410. Edonin is double of that, 2 of that. So it's Edon, the Edonin. So it's 3 altogether of whatever the number is. And Plag Edon means half of the sum total of the 3 that were before. So he said either 1200 plus 600, 1800. Or 1230 plus 615 was 1845, but you count it from Husaratam, because the pasuk says later, "May Eis Husaratam." Right, so it's past.
Right.
So I'm suggesting that it's 440. Now, why? Why would I make such a suggestion? So it's the Ramban actually in last week's Parashah, Parshas Kayach. The Ramban notes something interesting, something unusual. Moshe Rabbeinu is davening for Klal Yisrael. And he sort of cedes to the Rebbe Shalom that he could punish the guilty parties. And he asks that he should spare everybody else. Is that typical of Moshe Rabbeinu? Why doesn't he try to get Korach off the hook too? Right, so the Ramban is troubled by that. Why would Moshe Rabbeinu tell the Rebbe Shalom, okay, punish Korach and Dasan and Aviram, just leave Klal Yisrael alone? Why doesn't he try to get Korach off the hook too? Moshe Rabbeinu is usually the Malamet Chos, right? He's usually trying to get everybody off the hook. Okay, so Avalatan. The people followed Moshe Rab. The Kasha locked through Kairach Hadas Yishmach Tosik. They see all them Kairas. To Pesach Hayamayim Moshe Aaron. Oz kara kairach l'chola ego. V'amar lohem ki b'kagoi kulam u'mekame. Right? It wasn't really true. He wanted to be the Kohen Gadol. He didn't really care about what's going to happen to the rest of Klal Yisrael, but he professed to be concerned with the covet of all of Klal Yisrael. V'yeta v'adavar b'einayim. Klal Yisrael, the idea found favor by them. In other words, they were distraught over the fact that Avodah had been taken away from them and become the exclusive province of Shevet Levi. When the Avodah was b'Bechayros, so every Shevet had Bechayros. And now it was taken away and it had become the exclusive province of Shevet Levi. So they were amenable to this idea that maybe that could be overturned. V'nikalu kulam lirois ulai yiyasher be'enei Elokim v'tosher la'avodah l'b'chayrayim. V'zeh tam v'yakal alayim kayrach eskala ein. V'hinei nischayvu kloyim. The Ramban says that was a chet of grave magnitude. It was a chet that brought them a chi of kloyim chas v'shalom. Shoyu maharid ma'acharei rabbon. They were maharid after Moshe Rabbeinu. Ve'im ki maharid ma'acharei ashchino mevatrim al nevuas navi. The Ramban says, the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that I'm about to all divrei navi. It's chayv misa b'dei shamayim. They were fighting in a very serious chet. Moshe ve'Aaron lomdu aleim schos shalechota b'maisa elakayim. Moshe came and said, true, that they were all chayte b'machjava, but the only one who actually did a chet in maisa, only kayrach. Who are goyrim? Who are mefata? He's the cause. He's the one that seduced them. Let just Kairach die, and with the Einish to Kairach will come a tikkun for everybody else, and they don't all have to die. Says the Rambam, the Zuderech Nevakshe Racham, Sheyikalu Achet Me Ala Am V'Nois Meis Ala Yochad Agoyrim Meishul Chayev Al Topar. Chein Amar David Hine Anoichi Chatasi V'Anoichi Avesi Ve'ela Hatsoin Ma'asu Hina Yodcha Biu B'Veis Avi. So that's the story of the Magefa of David HaMelech when he commissioned the census and became a Magefa. So David asks, let the Einish come only on me and not on Klal Yisrael. In other words, Ramban is saying they were all Kayev Kloyim. There was no way to get them off the hook. Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to mitigate the damage, to say to the Rebbeinu Shalom, punish only Kairach who was Chaytei B'Maseh. And like this, at least the rest of Klal Yisrael could be spared. But there was no hope of sparing Kairach. The question was, will Kairach and everybody with him be destroyed? Or could he at least contain the damage to only Kairach? That's why he asked the way he asked. Now, in the case of the census, only David HaMelech had done a chet, or all of Klal Yisrael had done a chet. The Ramban says there was the Klal Yisrael were guilty also. The Ramban says they counted. The Gemara says they counted without shkol. So David HaMelech never told them to count without shkol. David HaMelech said, "I want to know how many there are." So count right, count with shkol. Who asked you to do it in a way that was awesome? Well, if David had commanded them to count and not to use shkalim, so then it's all his fault and not their fault. But he never told them how to count. He just commissioned the census, which maybe in and of itself was illegal. You're not supposed to do that. But if the problem was that they made the census without the Machzor Shekel, so why didn't they take the initiative of giving the Machzor Shekel? So it was a taina on them. The Anshan, the Anshoid was their shovel. They're all equal. Says the Ramban, the Rebbe had a grievance against Klal Yisrael before the census. Says David Bahem. Says the Rebbe was angry at Klal Yisrael. The Rebbe incited David against Klal Yisrael. In other words, it presupposes that there's a grievance, an unstated grievance that's there before. Says the Ramban, Rashi in Shmuel says, I don't know why the Rebbe was angry. Says the Ramban, we're going to see it's a Medrash, it's a Chazal. Shahaya Oynesh al Yisrael, maybe the Ramban didn't have the Medrash, but we have it from Chazal. So the Ramban says a Svara. Shahaya Oynesh al Yisrael behis acher binyan beis habechirim. This is taking place in the days of David. They have been in Eretz Yisrael for a very long time, and they have not yet built the Beis HaMikdash. And the Rebbe was angry at them, that they didn't take the initiative to build the Beis HaMikdash. I'm going to add a knei chia. If you look at the beginning of Parshas Re'eh, Pasuk says, "L'shichnoi sidrishu v'asashama." You should seek the place of the Beis Hamikdash, and then the pasuk says, "V'hoya v'makim asher yivchar Hashem." And the Sifri says it has to be in his Gav al Yidei Navi. Rashi brings in a Chumash. So what are you being Dirish? If you need the Navi to tell you to come and tell you where it is, so what are you making? The Navi can only tell you what the Rebbe tells him. Right, so the Malbim there explains that this. He reads it into the Sifri. You'll see in the Sifri, there's a drisha, mechlal shein tzricha drisha, and the gilui to the Navi comes only as a response to the drisha. In other words, there's an avodah that needs to be done, and then there's a esgalos. Then the Navi will tell you where it is. But without first the drisha, the Navi won't know. He won't be told. The secret will remain a secret. It will not be revealed to the Navi. So in other words, you see that in the Binyan HaMikdash is input from Klal Yisrael. Shahaya ha'aron haylech me'ayel al ayel keger ba'aretz ve'en ha'shvatim v's'ayrer in leimo nidrosh as Hashem v'nivna b'ayis l'shmai kinyin shenana l'shichnai sitrishu l'bas Hashem ad shenis ayrer David l'dover miyamim rabim v'lizman aruch until David was inspired. And Shanemar by Hiki Yasha Amelch Bebeisiv Hashem Niach Lo Misav Mifalayla Vayam Amelch Nasam Anavi Nech Yosha Bebeisiv Rozam Aroina Lakim Yosha Beseich Hagriya V'hinei David Menoy Hashem Yisbarach Nech Amar Kidamim Rabim Shafach the Arts of the Funite and his Acher Oida Binyan Abmaloi Shloimoi. It got pushed off even further because David couldn't be the builder of the Beis Hamikdash because of this issue of David Rabim Shafach. The Rambam is going to explain what that issue is. Ve'ilu hayu Yisrael chafetzim badavar v'nisayru rubai mitchila hayanasi b'mei yachad me'ashoiftim b'mei shal agam b'mei David ki im haya shifta Yisrael hayu misayrim badavar lo haya hu abayin aval Yisrael hayu abayin aval kasher am lo yishgichu v'David hu amashgiach ha'masayir v'hu asher heichen ha'koyel haya hu abayin. So then it's David's binyan. Who ish mishpah the machzik b'midas hadin. That's how the Ramban understands the problem of David and the Roiv Shafach is that David is a man of the midas hadin. And the Beis Hamikdash is rachamim and David's midas din. So it can't be David can't be the builder. So it had to wait for Shlomo who's rachamim. The alkein is achar abim calling me David b'tshias Yisrael. The alkein hoya ketzef aleya. The alkein hoya amokim asher yivchar Hashem mosum shmoi sham noida be'ansham u'b'magei fasam. How did they find out where the Mokum HaMizbeach is? Through the Magefa. When the Magefa ended, so David, it was Nizgala to David that in the Goyrin of Aravna Ayavusi is the place of the Mikdash, the place of the Mizbeach. The Rambam in Hilchos Klei HaMikdash says that Mokum HaMizbeach Mechuvim b'Yosef. Mizbeach has to be in a specific place. Very specific place. What?
Beis Abchira, right?
In Hilchos Beis Abchira. Right, not Klei HaMikdash, Beis Abchira. So they
didn't know exactly until then.
They didn't know.
There was no exact.
It says when David HaMelech was running away, Vayeshu b'Noyos, he sat with Shmuel, and they figured out the general.
I had to know the exact place,
location.
Right.
Once wants to say Pshat over there that.
But they knew where Haramaidia is.
They knew where Haramaidia
right,
was.
But the Mokum Mechuvan. Right.
Safe of Shochen.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe why did it happen on the day that he was running away from Shaul?
Okay.
I think maybe it came to David a bigger Hargoshen, the Tzara Shchina. He was a Nirdaf. And the Havana of the little Hashem that the Rebbe Shalom is Misnoah, the Hoylech, Kiger, Ba'aretz, resonated with him more. So in other words, it's all this idea that the Drisha yields the Gilun. It's not a coincidence that they were Isaac the Mokim HaMikdash on the night that he was running away from Shaul.
Right.
It's a causal effect. Right. So the Ramban is saying, because of Yirmoy Zalzeh, Shenemach Yilo Yoshavti Babayis L'Miyoyim Ha'aloisi Es B'nei Yisrael Mitzrayim V'Ada Yoyim Hazeh V'Eyem Esalech B'chol Asher Salachti B'chol B'nei Yisrael Ha'dover Dibarti Yasech HaShifti Yisrael Sher Tzivisi Liras Esami Yisrael Leimar Lama Loy B'Nisim Libeis HaRozim Harei Yashem HaKosov. The Ramban says, so the Pasuk is holding them guilty. Ki Ashchina Mesaleches B'chol Yisrael Me'oyel Aroyim Mishkan Al Mishkan V'lo Yoyecha B'chol Shoifti Yisrael Aroyim Yisrael Mes'eire B'Adava V'Amar HaKosov Oy Ki Gam Hashem Rochak Mehem V'lo Diber Ne'echad L'Kulam Livnei Sabayis. The Rebbe didn't come to tell them to build it either. רק עתה, שנסיירתו, הטיבויסו, כי היום מבואך, והצעת עתה למויסה, לשלם לבינך, שיהיה אישו. So the Ramban is telling us that there was a taina on Klal Yisrael for not building the mikdash. Let's look at a medrash. So the Ramban said that he's saying it al derech hasvara. This is a medrash Shoicher Toiv in Tehillim Kapitel Yud Zayt.
So the punishment was on back to the punishment of David HaMelech.
David asked that only he should be
Here,
punished
because
and
of
Klal
this.
Yisrael should be spared. So the Ramban is saying it's the same idea. All of them were guilty. And the einish was really on all of them. David was trying to mitigate the einish, to shrink it down that it should be only on himself and not on everybody else.
Back to this Inyan. Meaning, David HaMelech going back to the Inyan of the Beis
That's
HaMikdash.
right. Well, he's comparing it to Kairach. That's what the Ramban wants from David HaMelech. That just like there, David didn't ask that there shouldn't be an einish at all.
Right.
That wasn't the possibility. The only possibility was to mitigate the einish. Here also, there was no such possibility.
Right.
So
David wasn't killed.
there was an einish to him, very serious einish. That's there was a lot of einish came. So here it starts. V'Rabbanan, it's like the 5 lines down. Avishai ben Tzuya nafal sheyashachol k'neged 7,000 Yisrael. Hado d'chsiv hayomer lamalach hamashchis ba'ar rav ata heref yodecha rabo hi mashkaincha gaboch miyad. Miyad vayavai gadol David the Navi came. Hayomer loi alei v'hokein l'Hashem mizbeach. So the Medrash says, "Echad shayamaka livnoi."
This one here?
Person was hitting his son.
Maybe someone is there.
V'lo
That's
yoyidei ben lomo humaka
What's the
oisa.
whole?
Doesn't know what he did
Too
wrong.
bad.
Achar sheriko Omar loi lech asay dover pliny. Go do such and such a thing. Sheshivisicha hayoim kama yomim v'lo yishkach tabu. In other words, now the son knows what the problem was. Doesn't go do such and such a thing. I told you 6 months ago to do that, and you didn't do it yet. Kach kolaisan al loften shenaflu b'yemei David lo'naflu ela shaloi tavu b'yemei Beis Hamikdash. Mamash Chazal. What the Ramban says, "V'aniyoyim b'derech svara" is a medrash. Chazal said that. Ve'aloi dvarim kal v'chayim. U'ma'im elu shaloi nivde b'yemeim v'loi charav b'yemeim kach nase lahem. V'nen shual shaloi tavu b'yemei Beis Hamikdash. So the medrash makes a kal v'chayim. This was before the Beis Hamikdash was built, and there was a time on Klal Yisrael to such an extent that there could have been. They could have been destroyed. Anu shecharav b'yameinu v'hoya b'yameinu v'einonu b's'ablim v'loim v'vakshim rachamim alachas kama v'kams. The Medrash says that we have a bigger achrayus than the people that lived before it was built the first time. Lefikach hiskinu chasidim harishayim shiur Yisrael mispalel and shalosh tefillos b'chol yom v'yom. Ona hashem shchinas v'lotziyim v'sei da'avodah Yerushalayim v'tiknu b'nei Yerushalayim Hashem bracha b'fnei atzmai b'tfilo b'chas hamazon b'tziva Moshe Rabbeinu. Kivan Shara David Kaf Amar Ilu Nafal to the outside now you Mechalanaisi. Aval Akash Baruch Hu Racham of Rabbi Mochain Nema Mufanecha Mishpati Yetze. That's the pasuk that is going on. Kapitel Yitzayim Mufanecha Mishpati Yetze. David says that it's better to have the einish from the Rebbe directly than through an intermediary, through an Adam that's not Merach. So the Ramban and Chazal are telling us that there's a Tviyah for not building the Beis Hamikdash before it was built, and a bigger tviyah for not properly wanting, being misoyer to have it after it was destroyed. So I'm suggesting that based on this Ramban, that's the Edom. In other words, the time of the Ketz is directly associated with our achrayas to the Ketz. So the Edom is the 440 years that the Beis Hamikdash was delayed in its building. And if we make that cheshbon, that's where the suggestion comes in. So it would be 440 times 3 is 1320, and then half of that is another 610 is 19. No, it's 660, right? So it's 1980. If you start from the Husar Atomid, it's still in the future. So I make a suggestion in Pshat. That's what the pasuk means. I think even if it's not the Pshat in the pasuk, I think the Ramban and the Medrash are a very useful limud for us in our times.
It's interesting that he talks here, like there was no years, like people should have demanded.
The Medrash.
No, that's some shit. Meaning it's not the. What he was saying, you should not to ask. Adrabe. Asking, you have to.
You have to ask.
Yeah.
You have to be inspired.
But not.
The one, it's not to think that there are boxes that have to be checked,
Exactly.
and then the Rebbe has
It's a
to.
different strategy that we're used to.
It's a different yish, right? Actually, Yaishim and Agula doesn't mean from the Goyal coming. It means from forcing the Rebbe to bring the Gula.
Like Pesach Sheni, the Esther.
Pesach Sheni is like the paradigm of the Ratzon Avodas Hashem.
It shows there
Lama Migara.
it shows there also that the Neviim only came once they demanded they had
Right,
to
so,
look for
right,
it.
so
So that
that's
means it has to
right,
be
so,
something
right,
from
so
us.
that's I have a source for that. There's a Malbim in Parshas Re'eh that says that. It said that the Sifri said that. That the Shichnei Sidrishu Vos Hashem Avoy Amokim Asher Yivchar Hashem. So the Sifri really asks as a question that the Psukim are contradictory. Because if you have to wait for the Navi to tell you, so then you don't know where it, so then you don't know where it is. So the Sifri answers that you have to be Dairish, and then the Navi will be informed.
That's like Yogato Matzosa.
That's right.
The shot of Yogato, then you get like a Mitzia. You get not only when you were Mitzigeya,
It's only a Mitzvah, even after the Igi, it's a
Right.
Mitzvah.
and that's a Pshat Hesech Hadas, by the way. Hesech Hadas, the
That's
Pshat
what
is
that means not
it's
that
Hechef
you're
from
not
Das.
thinking of
Exactly,
coming.
exactly, very good. Right. Yeah. Yeah. For sure, that's what keeps you on track. That's what keeps you on track. Yeah, but that was the part. Some were saying,
Asks,
yeah.
why is Mashiach an Iker?
Okay,
We
Yeah, one of the
wouldn't be
Iker, yeah.
able to have Torah if there wasn't Mashiach. He asks in Shuvas.
okay,
So I thought that sometimes just looking at it as in the intellectual construct of Torah mitzvahs are not bottled if there's no Mashiach. But to live with Torah, in other words, to live with the Haya Oiv, you need to have the Iker of Mashiach. How can a person go into the Kivshana Eish singing Anima? Only because he knows that there's a future. So it's an Iker in being able to live like a Maimon.
right. Mitzad Sheni, you have the Pshat in the Rambam. That Moshiach is a Iker because that's what's going to be Shleimus HaTorah. Like you can't have it without it. Shleimus HaTorah, Shleimus HaMitzvahs.
Some is asking on the Rambam the truth. That's what
You're
he's
saying
asking.
you can't.
He wants to know why did the Rambam count Mashiach
Well,
as an
we
Iker?
can't fulfill the mitzvahs if not for Mashiach.
When they had, so we don't have a Beis Hamikdash. We're
Exactly.
missing a lot of-
You don't have the remix unless Mashiach comes.
No, we have some other
The
people.
last three are
The last three, you can't have Shlomo.
Okay, but Shleimus HaTorah, Shleimus HaMitzvahs. I think that's a Pshat in the Rambam there. That's the. Yeah. Okay, Agresiv Shkoyach. Thank you. All right, Tzlocha Rabbi. Thank you. Okay. Rabbi Reuven, the floor is yours. Let me print out the things. However, we have a special Shaatnez workshop. This is something which you don't get any other day. Bochrim. Chavre. Maybe the Bochrim one also.
Don't be intimidated by the size. By the what? By the size. Yeah.
Guys, we're having a
One more guy leaves, that's it. We have to do this a lot.
Heard the Shabbos program and up to see was solid.
Yeah, it's a nice.
You run away?
I was there. I had hosting.
Oh, Lebens done. It's a Broche, Shechion, long time nicht gesehen schon. It's good, okay. Let me.
Can I grab it?
At the end, maybe we'll say. Okay. So I made this paper last second. It's we're not going to go exactly according to this paper, but we'll follow it to some extent. Yeah, I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. I'm not trying to do anything lumdish over here. You know, any big pull-in. It's more to show the practical implication of a mitzvah that seems a little bit aloof, above, bring it down to earth. So it's very. You start with Parshas Chukas, yeah, number one. So it's a very opportune time to speak about this. Number one, because it's Parshas Chukas, and Chukas Paraduma is a choik, right? It's the choik. Every time we bring in the Torah chukim, we speak about Paraduma. Sometimes says Chazir, Basar Chazir, and Rashi brings Shaatnez. Always brings Shaatnez. So chukim, it's Parshas Chukas. That's besides for the Rambam that we just finished the Hilchos Kilayim. So what does it say in the beginning of the? What does it say in the beginning of the parsha in Rashi? Rashi says that this is a choik. It's something that the goyim ask questions like, "What is this? Right? What is this stuff? Matam yeshva? What's the reason for these mitzvahs?" It's interesting. I was searching online to find a picture. I put Shaatnez, whatever, and came some goyish thing, Christian, whatever, and it said over there, all Christians agree that the weirdest commandment is Deuteronomy. It says Dvarim, whatever, Shaatnez. They don't understand it. So Pasha the Rashi says the goyim. No, Shaatnez. Paraduma. I don't know if they read it all together. I'm not sure what's happening. But this, they don't understand it. What is this? Yeah. So let's start with how special this mitzvah is. So I wrote over here, Chashivos HaMitzvah Satan Az. So the Chashivos of this mitzvah, there's a sefer called Kovetz Likutei Dinim, Rabbi Green-Glass made. Yeah, Montreal, made in Montreal. And he has Shaatnez over there. He goes through all kinds of dinim that need some chizuk, some strength. And he speaks about Shaatnez. And he says that the Shalah brings that the word Shaatnez is Satan Az. Same letter as Satan Az. The Satan is very strong. What does that mean? So the Shalah explains that a person who's davening and he's wearing Shaatnez, the malach that usually accepts the davening, Sandalfein, he doesn't recognize this person as a yid davening. He recognizes it as a koimer l'avodah zara, like someone that is a priest for avodah zara. So he doesn't accept the davening. So if we're wearing Shaatnez and we're davening, there's a blockage to the davening. It's very important to make sure that we take away that blockage. And the Tzemach Tzedek, he says that Shaatnez is from Shin Ayin Nahirin, the great lights above, that are also blocked from the person. The Gilu is not coming to the person who's wearing Shaatnez. And there's a story with the Rebbe Rashab and the Friedrich Rebbe that they went once to Berlin, and they went to the King's Garden. It was like a botanical gardens, beautiful botanical gardens. It was very delicate plants over there. So when they came to this garden, the Rebbe Rashab told the Friedrich Rebbe, "I want to go in here." And it was known that inside this garden there's a room especially for the king. And we know the story. I don't know if you heard the story. The Rebbe Rashab eventually found a way to get in. They bribed the guard, and he said a mimer. He wrote a mimer in there. But when they came to the door, the guard said, "This is a very delicate place. You have to be very careful what you bring in here. So please go on the side. You see the slippers over there? Put on those slippers. We don't want you to bring mud from outside, dirt from outside, bring in and ruin the plants inside the garden." So the Rebbe Rashab looked at the slippers. Oh, I don't want to wear this. He said it's Shaatnez. So they took out their handkerchiefs and wrapped it around their shoes. They told the guard, we're going to keep it tied the whole time. He let them go in. So they use like what you do when you go to a doctor's office. You put this thing over. That's what they use. So we see how it's not like some mitzvah that's for learning. It's a mitzvah that's practical. The Rebbe Shabbos is really fine. It's like Shabbos. And there's also a story with the Chassid Rafal Khan, the father of Rabbi Menachem, that he was in Siberia and his family, they wanted to send him something for the cold. They sent him boots. And he was freezing there and it was torture. And he didn't wear it for a while. I think it's almost a month, maybe a month. He didn't wear it until he was able to verify that it's not Shabbos. So that's the cheshivas of the mitzvah. Now, what's the reason for Shaatnez? It's a chayk. There's no reason, right? We're doing it because Hashem said. That's the whole idea. We don't want to get stuck with the reasons. We want to do it. Hashem said to do this. That's why I'm doing it, which is the real reason for all the mitzvahs. Every mitzvah, there's reasons, but we don't want to get sidetracked with that. We're doing it because Hashem said. But nevertheless, all the chukim, the Rambam says, to calm down the Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara is asking questions. What is this? Calm him down and bring some reason. Are they the true essential reason? Not necessarily, but they are a reason for us to calm down. And the Rambam says it's important to bring a reason. Try to bring a reason. So there's one reason brought over here. It's from the Medrash Tanchuma and Medrash Birkei Rabbi Lazar. It says that who was the first person that was murdered in history? Hevel. What was the reason? So it says that Hevel and Cain, they were the owners of the world, basically. There's no one there, so they divided the world. Hevel is gonna have the vegetation, the land, and Cain is gonna have Hevel had the animals, the livestock, and Cain had the vegetation. So they brought a korban to Hashem. Some say it was Rosh Hashanah, different Megashim. They brought a korban, and or Erev Pesach. They brought a korban. What did Cain bring? Cain brought flax. He brought flax. It says leftover. He was eating and leftover flax he put on the mizbeach. And Hevel, he brought a nice fatty sheep. So they brought the korban. Hashem took the korban of the sheep, not the korban of the flax. And Cain was all jealous. And in the field, he had a whole argument with him. He said, "How could you even have your animals here? This is my land. The land is mine." He said, "You have to fly in the air somewhere." They had a whole fight, and he killed him. So the Medrash says, Hashem said, "I don't want to bring these two things together. Even in your clothes, you shouldn't put wool and linen together. Wool comes from the sheep, linen from the flax plant. They came together. They brought the first killing. So we don't want to do that." Okay, let's start with the number 3 here with the mitzvah. So in the Torah, there's 2 times it says about Shaatnez. Like a lot of mitzvahs that are brought earlier in the Torah, and then in Devarim are repeated. So the first pasuk is in Parshas Kedoshim. It says, "As chukai tishmeru," you should keep my chukim. And it lists a bunch of mitzvahs, 4 mitzvahs that have to do with mixtures. Kilayim. Kilayim, the word kilayim means mixture. Not necessarily just Shaatnez, right? There's a few mixtures. So the hemtecha loisar biakilayim. You should not make your animals with a mixture, 2 different animals. You shouldn't sow your field with a mixture of seed. And a garment of a mixture of Shaatnez you shouldn't bring up on you. So when we read this pasuk, and we focus on the Shaatnez at the end, Shaatnez, doesn't say anything about the mitzvah. A garment of a mixture of Shaatnez. The word Shaatnez is nowhere else in the Torah. You can say it before in the Torah. So a mixture of Shaatnez, we don't know what that is. We know it's a beged, it's a garment. What exactly is it? So we go to the next pasuk, which is in Devarim, explains Moshe Rabbeinu was explaining the mitzvahs to the Yidden, and he said them over. It says, "Lo yisil b'shatnez tzemer ufishtim yachad." You should not wear Shaatnez. What is Shaatnez? It explains. Tzemer ufishtim yachad. Wool and linen together. Question now is, what is wool? What is linen? So the word tzemer. So let's take in English. Camel's wool. That's tzemer. You heard of a llama, the animal llama? So they have alpaca wool. Alpaca wool is that rabbit wool. There's a lot of wools, right? So what does the Torah mean when it says tzemmer? And then pishtim is translated as linen, flax plant, right? The ishtan is flax. But what exactly does this mean? Is it specifically the flax plant, or is it any plant in, like you have I don't know, familiar rami jute? There's a lot of
Silk. What's silk?
Silk is from a silkworm,
From a
from
worm.
a silk moth. It's a different thing. So what is it? So let's start with
It's
wool.
also called a linen. It also has a connotation with linen. No? Silk. No, it's called silk wool.
So let's start with wool. So wool, we have sources that the Yerushalmi, for places that when the Torah says just tzemer, wool, it's talking about wool from sheep and rams. That's it. Nothing else. The only wool it's talking about when it just says tzemer. If it's talking about something else, it's going to say tzemer arnovim, and wool of rabbits, tzemer gemalim, wool of camels. But if it just says tzemer in the Torah, it's talking from sheep, specifically sheep. And the lashon in the Shulchan Aruch is rechelim and ayalim. So lamb and sheep and rams, so all from sheep. So alpaca wool, camel wool, which now they're using a lot of camel wool. I heard in California they have the suits pure camel wool, it's the colors like brown. So it's cool. Huh? It sounds like a huge kula. Yeah, it's a kula. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's not a kula. It's what the pasuk means, right? When it says tzemer, it would say something else. Then we go to pishtim. Pishtim, the same thing. It's explained that it's specifically from the flax plant. So if you ever went to a tree and cracked off the bark, you'll see little fibers underneath, little strings. So from the flax plant, they open it up and they take those fibers, they make a thread. That's the only problem with wool. So it's specifically sheep's wool and linen from a flax plant. And I'll show you here some samples. So this is pure wool from a sheep, as you see here. Wool rovings. So this over here, this is not a thread. This is literally they took off they shear it off and they combed it. They made it very clean, very clean. It's usually full of all types of stuff. So this is wool. Let's start with that. I'm giving you like the raw stuff. And this here, this is the raw linen fibers. They took out the fibers from it's called the Basque fiber, and they made it clean and nice. Here's your linen. Okay. So now, what happens if I take this, right? This is the wool, and I take linen, and I hold it together, and I put it on myself. Is this Shaatnez?
Okay, it's not woven together.
Okay, what if I tie it?
Not woven.
So the Rashi brings, and it's brought in Gemara, that the word Shaatnez is made up of 3 words. Shua, Tavi, Venus. We're on number 3, the last line. Shua, Tavi, Venus, which is a discussion what exactly it means. There's Rashi and Rabbi Menachem and the Rambam. So Shua, according to everyone, is combed. So this here is combed. When it came off the sheep, it was full of hay and dirt and all tangled up, and they combed it till it became a beautiful, soft thing. So that's shua. So it has to be combed. If you just take linen straight off from the flax plant and you take wool and you tie it as much as you want, it's not a problem. It has to first be combed. Then tavoy. Tavoy means it's spun. It's made into a thread. So I don't have the spindle that makes it a thread for us. For example, I'll do it with my fingers. You take this, there's a special spinning thing, and today it's machines. You twist it until you have a thread. Okay, once you have the thread, it's called shua and tavoy. Home, and now it's made into a thread. Nuz is an argument between Rashi and Rabbi Menachem that according to Rashi, it means that you took this and you make it into a garment. You go and you sew it. Yeah, you sew it together. You weave it together. According to Rabbi Menachem, which is the halacha, nuz means that it was made into 2-ply. So you turn it around and they make it again. So the little threads we have, they twist them a few times. So the threads we have are shua tav v'nuz, the regular threads that we have. So that's the idea. So if you just take raw wool and raw linen, it's not a problem. It has to be made into a thread. It's combed, spun, and made into a thread, a full thread with the double 2-ply, like you have the tissues, 2-ply, 3-ply, different levels. Yeah. Okay. So that's the idea of Shaatnez. Okay.
Most of the threads now are 2-ply.
There's 2 types. So the thing is like this. This is the Eraisa. Okay, this is for it to be the Eraisa. The Rabbanon, it's even if it's not all of these together. And the Rambam that we just learned, the Rambam holds that it doesn't have to be Shua Tavi Benuz. It could be either Shua Tavi or Nuz. So if you just have spun once and you put it together, it's a problem. If it's just a nuz that's bent around but wasn't combed, it's also a problem. The Rambam is the most strict with Shaatnez. See in the Kiddushin Shulchan Aruch, it's one of the only places where he brings a name of one of the poskim. Brings the Rambam, it's Machmir. Usually Kiddushin Shulchan Aruch doesn't say any names. Okay, so let's go to the actual Shaatnez checking. So we have here what needs to be checked. So what would you say? What needs to be checked? What do you need to check? Anything. So do I need to check polyester? No. Right? Do I need to check viscose, nylon? Do I need to check cotton? Do I need to check only wool and linen? Right. So if you have a wool garment, you have a wool suit, you need to check it to make sure there's no linen there. You have a linen garment, you have to check that there's no wool. That's the simple, down-to-earth thing, right? So, and we saw, just a show from the Rambam says here. The Rambam says, and this is the Lashon in the Shulchan Aruch, someone who buys a wool garment from a goy, he has to check it really well. It's interesting that the Rambam said yafa, like you have to really check it well. Maybe it's sewn with linen. Yeah. So the Rambam's talking about the situation. The regular situation is that you have a wool garment and there's linen threads that are being used. So today there's less linen being used because it doesn't spin well in a machine. Linen has like bumps to it. So they're using machines, it doesn't spin very well. When they do by hand, you bring it to a tailor and you say, I'll just add you a button. He does it by hand, you might use linen. But in the machine, so there's much less.
It's a very delicate material.
It's a delicate material in what sense?
If you're saying for a button, probably not. But that's button.
Yeah.
Gets a lot of.
It's very delicate. Like if you get a linen suit, it looks like a little bit creased, but that's like the style. That's the look. So.
Isn't it stronger than the linen strings?
The strings are strong.
Oh, the strings are strong.
Yeah. They're strong strings, but they're not even. They're like kind of not straight.
Maybe you would sew a button with a linen
Why was the
thread.
dafka being used together? It seems like it almost seems like because the Torah made such a chukah, so dafka will also usually want to use wool and linen together. I wouldn't think why the cotton garment don't use linen in it.
You think why
You don't see linen in anything else but when it's used with wool.
Yeah?
When else do you see linen?
No, we have linen. First,
I
we
have a
have
bunch of
linen.
linen stuff over there. I can bring it if you want.
Yeah.
No,
Linen
but
skirts, dresses,
That's
I
suits.
understand, but
the expression is you said you don't have to check polyester.
Right.
Why are we doctor concerned that wool will be mixed with linen and not polyester or not nylon or not viscose?
Right.
If polyester is mixed, it's not.
No, I understand, but it doesn't seem like it's common. It's common practice to use.
Right, so
linen
we'll speak about
other
the-
fabrics. Why
It's a higher.
Let's speak about the common practice a few minutes, because today and definitely in the time of when the Torah was given and the Gemara and until 50 years ago, this is what a suit a suit without linen inside, like you had to put some linen. If not, it wasn't considered a classy suit, a proper suit. The tailors would put linen, dafka, for the collar to make it, Now we have all kinds of fabrics. Okay, let me just finish the paper here and then we'll have a discussion. Okay, so what needs checking? So the simple answer is something that's wool needs to be checked to make sure there's no linen. Something that's linen, make sure there's no wool. It's much more complicated than that, but that's the general idea. When it comes to suits, there's different opinions. You could speak to your Rav. There's some opinions that say if it's a polyester suit, okay, don't need to check it because you need to find in it wool and linen. So, and there are those that say, like where I learned to check for Shaatnez with Rabbi Sayag. I don't know if you've heard of him. He works in Lakewood, so he's like very strict. He says that you have to check every suit, every single suit, because most suits, even polyester, have wool in them, and then you need to look for the linen. Most suits have. We'll talk about what's inside the suit. Okay, now this is a simple question. I think most people will have. Oh, why can't it's supposed to say can't? Why can't I rely on the label? Right. So I take a suit and I look at the label. Let's find an example. Very good. I buy this jacket here, and I look at the label. Like if you want to know what's in your cereal, what do you do? Look in the ingredients, right? So you have the label content. It says here 100% pure new wool. The lining 100% rayon. Yeah, so beautiful. What's the problem? Okay, Shaatnez is done, right? It's pure wool and rayon. Rayon is like a plastic, basically, right? There's nylon and rayon. Rayon is more natural than polyester. It has a wood base. Yeah, it has a wood base, but the polyester is like just gases in water. Okay, so yeah. It's not the water with gas. So I have this
It's seltzer fabric.
yeah, seltzer. I have this suit. I bought it. It says pure 100% wool. It's amazing. Inside here, I know this is not wool. This is rayon. I just read it. So why do I need to check this? So the answer is a few things. Number one, according to the government regulations, if I'm producing suits, I have a little factory. What do I have to write on the label? Anything that's more than 5%. So if it's less than 5%, let's say there's 4% linen, right? 4% polyester. I don't want it to sound professional. 100% wool. I could write that. Are they doing that? Depends where. In China, officially they're doing it. They're writing what they want on the label. When you buy it, you can ask for what you want to write on the label. It's really like that. And they're not so worried about it, because when it comes to food, there's a lot of allergies, and they come and they check. They send inspectors. They check that you're really following the rules. When it comes to clothes, they're more lenient. So when it says 100%, not necessarily it's 100%. That's one thing. Second thing is that when they say 100% here, what are they talking about? What's 100% wool? So let's say it says 100% wool. What about this here? It's 100% wool. This is plastic, right? They didn't talk about that. Go under here. This here. Right. This is polyester. They didn't talk about polyester. I came to a wedding. I'm showing off my suit. 100% wool. I'm actually wearing some polyester. Right? So it's not actually telling you everything. What is it telling you? The shell, the outside. The shell here is polyester, and the lining is rayon. But what's inside? They're not talking about that, because they don't see it important. The main thing is what's touching your body and what you're showing people, right? So, if we take this suit and we go inside, it's already open. We'll close it. We go inside here. And we have over here, again, more polyester. This piece is called, it's the shoulder pad, but it has a name, this kind of material. It's going to come back to it. Inside here, you have cotton. It doesn't say cotton on the label. You have here, this is waxed cotton, a different kind of cotton. So it doesn't say it on the label, right? So far, we don't have Shaatnez, but we have things that are not on the label. That's called pelon. Sorry, that material is called pelon. It's not woven. It's just pressed together with heat. Now we look at the collar, which is the most common Shaatnez situation, and we open up here. So this inside here is linen. See? So it's at 100% wool, but this is linen. Huh?
The whole brown thing?
The brown thing, yeah. So you have the polyester felt on the outside, and right under it they put a canvas to have a nice shape, and it's a linen canvas. It's a Shaatnez jacket, but it says 100% wool. I have a few samples of collars that I took out that are wool. This one is wool. Linen, sorry. Linen.
I had that. I one time bought suits that had linen in the collar.
Which part is the linen? This part over here, right?
Yeah.
They changed it.
Yeah. Okay, so you can't. You want to see this? I have a bunch of them. This is just a straight out piece of linen, in case you never saw it. Linen before. This part is linen. The white part. This is linen.
Yeah, the brown.
Here's the interesting one. This is not linen. This is not linen. It's inside. It's like a sandwich inside there. There's woven linen inside. Then we have today. There's a lot of recycled, reprocessed, and it's considered moral to reprocess everything, right? And to save the world, no? Environmental. Okay, so there's a lot of recycled stuff, and that makes a huge issue. Let's take this here. Okay, obviously it's not your clothes. This thing here. How am I supposed to know if this is Shaatnez or not? Even if you're a tester, so you take a.
But what is this from?
This is from a couch.
A couch.
I'll tell you the story. So
The couch is not a problem because you're not wearing it.
No, sure. Oh,
Okay.
I hate this.
So this here. So let's say I take some samples here and I check it, and it's good. I don't know if over here there's something else. Here there could be linen. Here it could be wool. It's a cholent, a big cholent here. So it's a big problem. So when it's really intensely recycled like this, the suggestion is to take it out. You can't say this suit, if you have like a piece in the collar that's like this, you have to just take it out. But sometimes there's
Taking out
reprocess.
such a big piece can destroy the whole jacket.
No, this is not a jacket. This is
No,
a
I'm saying even the process that.
okay, here's reprocessed stuff. You can't even. This is reprocessed, but it doesn't
No,
have.
the other piece that you were holding before.
Yeah.
Where's that
That, the
from?
whole.
No, that's from the same piece from here.
Oh,
No, in a suit you usually have in the collar. You can change the collar.
Here.
change the collar.
Yeah, I mean the
See,
back. You replace it.
See, this is recycled too. You can't really tell. This too. You'll see different like colors over there. This is reprocessed, but they do it more.
Figure out what's what in there.
That one's more clear.
See, it's not.
You have this.
It's bumpy.
Yeah.
Maybe this way you could see it.
Yeah.
So this brings another level. So I'll just tell you what this is. So there's
There's no sheer halachically how much linen. It's
Right.
automatically.
right. So this is a good question. So if you have a wool, something that's wool, and there's one thread of linen, it's Shaatnez.
Right.
One
It's
thread.
not bottle. It's not bottle.
It's not bottle v'shishin.
Right.
When do we have bittul? There is a bittul. It's not that kind of bittul. It's a different thing. So you have a thread. So you have one thread, right? This is not a thread, but let's say this was a thread. If I have one thread, and in here there's 51% cotton, and then the rest is linen. What is the status of this thread? So there is, 51 is very hard to know. But let's say it's 10% linen, and they made a thread from different fibers, and the rest is cotton. This is called a cotton thread.
Right.
And I could sew it into a.
Well, the same way your jacket is called 100% wool.
I'm sure you can have it recycled.
But that's different. This is in one thread. It has to be in the thread.
Yeah.
The thread itself, this thread has a gather of what the thread is. Is it semer or is it semer geffen? You know, is it the cotton?
You can have recycled cotton threads that might have some fluid inside.
Yeah, or you could have originally they make mixture threads with mixtures. Yeah, I found this in kapatas that they use in the shoulder pad, a certain canvas like this, and the white threads have the majority of cotton, a little bit of linen. That's considered okay. Rabbi Bell told me that I should tell people when I find that. I shouldn't just say your kapot is okay. I should tell them this is okay. There is some linen. It's bottled.
Notify the kapot maker.
Like he
Have to notify the kapot.
Yeah, he notified him a few times. So he's
Yeah, he doesn't care.
he said he doesn't want to wear it because on this side there's majority of cotton. What if down on the other side, like he didn't want to trust it, but you don't have to tell people not to trust it. It's straight out halacha in Shulchan Aruch. So there is the bittul of the status of the thread. There's no bittul in a wool garment, one piece of linen or the other way.
Are you allowed to feel make a thread in a bottle of thread and use it? Once it's there, once you allowed to
But that's not it. It's not being mevatel. Is that?
No, if it's a string, no, because you make the string wherever
If I
you
put
want.
a drop of milk in a pot of meat, that's mevatel chatchila.
You put it in the water, you're not
You're
making
not putting the wool and linen together. You're putting wool with cotton, linen with cotton.
The milk is mixed with water. So are you allowed to put the milk in the water to after use with the meat?
So officially go and do it. That's your local rabbi. Yeah? Okay. Then another thing here, I'll go through whatever I wrote here so I don't forget.
That's bittul b'roiv or bittul b'shishim?
Right.
This is Barat.
B'roiv, okay.
Oh,
Shishim is
Tom.
nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Okay. We have over here, can you, someone named Smith on here.
Right here, Mayor is on a roll here.
That's a linen jacket, right?
It is.
Okay, yeah.
I'll give it to you afterward.
You should take it off.
No, it's linen cotton.
Right, I see that. It's like
Okay.
socks. Yeah.
Right.
Not the full linen.
Right.
Exactly, you have to leave it here.
Pure linen is shot.
Here before you.
Which of the
Pure linen is shot.
Yeah, pure linen is
That's like a crumpled ball.
it gets creased right away. You have to like
Same.
iron it every day or
No,
something.
this is just
Yeah.
So we have here, can you rely? A lot of people they ask,
the jacket.
I went no names, I went to this store, that store, and the guy told me that his stuff is never Shaatnez. He made sure that's not Shaatnez. Could you rely on that? So if it's not a frumiyid, or it's a guy, right? You say like, but let's say it's a frumiyid. I'm saying it's not Shaatnez.
Right, you go to Flums, for example. They say these suits don't have to be. Yeah, but they check. Like, for example, that's a kasha type.
How they know? They don't know what
Okay, that's a thing.
I used to check for flums, actually.
Yeah. When you,
Yeah.
Flums.
No flums, you promise?
This one's from Flums. He told me no shots. You never know.
So what Flams does, he said that he takes one when he orders a
It's a sample for the batch.
yeah, he takes one from the batch.
Right.
Why does he do that? Because he said one time he ordered suits and they were all Shaatnez. So since then, every time he orders suits, he asks for one, send him one, he gets a check. No Shaatnez, then he.
Right. The
So
problem with that
he's
is
not saying that each one was checked.
right.
He's
They
saying
don't say
that
that.
for him, at least for his
Yeah,
business, and usually it's okay, right? One was checked.
Yeah, but Lavdafka, these days, because it's, people make every company.
They have the materials and they make it.
Yeah, but these days, certain companies they do at the same time they manufacture in different places in the world.
There's a piece from here, a piece from there.
Yeah, different things also.
I didn't get this jacket. I did ask her if I'm allowed to wear a linen jacket with wool tzitzit. He said you're not weaving them together, so it's fine. So what?
So,
Not the same value.
It's not the same bag. It's
right, so someone gave me a yarmulke to check. I keep on,
oh yeah.
and you want to know if it's linen.
And
It's actually linen. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's linen. I thought
yeah,
it was
linen
like wax
yarmulkes.
cotton. Looks very close to linen. I checked, it's linen. So I said, "What's the problem? What's your?" He said, "I don't know if I can wear my talis." I said, "Who told you this?" You know. So in halacha, it says that if you could take off the bottom clothes, the bottom garment, without taking off the top, then it's not a connection for Shaatnez. Right? Shaatnez is like a huge sugya. Huge sugya, you know? But the basic idea is if you can't take off the bottom without taking off the top, then it's not connected. If you could, it's considered. If you can't, it's considered connected. If you could, it's not connected. So the example the Ramah brings is two socks. You have a wool sock and a linen sock. You can't take off the bottom sock without taking off the top. But tzitzis, you just pull off your tzitzis. Okay? pull out it's like this. So that's okay. The same thing with the talus. Talus is here and yarmulke is here. You can pull it off. It has to be that's completely stuck. Even a jacket, a wool jacket, a linen shirts, right?
Right.
So they were sending around a whole video how to do it. You could take off the shirt without taking off the jacket one step at a time. So it's okay. Or a wool, wool pants with the linen shirt, right? So when these things are okay because they're not fully connected. So most cases where it's two different garments, the question is if you have a coat with a linen lining that you button in or you zipper on. So zippers, most of the places can say shouldn't that's considered connected. But button, you can always unbutton it and pull it out. Okay, so we can't rely on the retailer's claim. Why? Because most retailers, he's not the tailor. The guy's not a tailor. He's just he's a retailer, right? Yeah, I said it the same. So he's selling something that someone else made. He doesn't know anything. Many times you come into a store and you say, so is this a good product? Or that doesn't know anything. Just selling it, right? It's amazing. How does it work? They don't know. Especially in Walmart. You don't ask in Walmart these questions. They don't know what's happening there. So they don't know. They ordered it from Turkey, right? And they told the guy it should be wool. I said, for sure, the shell is all wool. That's what he didn't even say that, but the shell is wool, no problem. The buttons are plastic. The over here, it's polyester. The shoulder pads are horsehair. Most suits we have horsehair. The shoulder pads, it keeps it in good shape. He's not talking about it. He's going to tell you it's 100% wool. So you can't really. The only way you could rely on him is if he's the tailor. Like a from tailor, he's the tailor. It's a custom-made suit. Then you could rely on him. But if he can't name you all the stuff that's in the suit, so then what's he saying that there's no Shaatnez? He could tell you that I've been selling for 10 years, 20 years, and no one came back and said it's Shaatnez. He can tell you that. And good chance you're going to check and it won't be Shaatnez. But he can't tell you, I know this is Shaatnez.
What if you make a custom-made suit by you tell him in advance, though, he does nice, he understands, I respect the problem. He made it.
Right.
He assembled it, he did everything.
We get into the problem of the
Nemonus, yeah.
Vituma.
So Vituma, yeah. So that's Sugya.
Yeah.
We trust the guy.
Yeah. When do we walk around being like the Indians? We have horse, we have camel, we have sheep. I'm walking around all day.
Whoa, everyone.
Everything comes in fluid.
So what's interesting with women's clothing, it's much easier today than it used to be. Because most of the clothing is synthetic. Most of it. There's all types of synthetic stuff. And they keep coming out with it. So they have polyester, they have nylon, rayon. Viscose is another name for nylon. They have lycra, elastane, spandex. Unlimited amounts of things that they can make women's clothing. And women want to have a lot of clothing. Right? We know that. So they want it to be cheaper, right? A man, you're going to buy every piece of clothing for $500. That's not going to work out. So it's easier, but still there's cases where they need to check. For example, a skirt that has a waistband needs to be checked in the waistband. If it's a wool skirt or a linen skirt, but for example, a dress that doesn't have anything added on, doesn't have like a flower, a little flower thing added on, or it doesn't have anything more than just the buttons and the dress, and it's one color, that doesn't need to be checked. There's no way they would add the wool. They're not going to use wool for buttons. Huh? Wool coats, yeah, for sure should be checked. So let me just show you some stuff that I have here. So we did the jacket. This jacket with.
But such a jacket, you can't even fix it. This one, because
So this I could fix. The guy didn't want to fix it. I could fix it. I take out the collar like this, and then I give a new piece that's not Shaatnez, it's cotton.
You put it back on?
No, and I send him to the right tailor, and he come back to me just to verify. So what I do is I give the tailor needs to know the size, so I cut it, and I give it to them to bring to the tailor, so the tailor can measure with this, but he can't put this back in. So that's actually the easiest Shaatnez to repair is this. Easiest
I
Shaatnez.
had
Take
to,
off the whole collar.
yeah,
Take out the whole collar.
That's also the most common.
And you put
yeah, that's most. I had suits. I bought from
$25, $30 they put back in.
Jose Bank.
Yeah.
Jose Bank. They had the.
Yeah, Jose
I had to
Bank.
change.
Are there more? Yeah, so now there's some companies that are more prone to Shaatnez than others.
That were found more, yes. There's J. Crew, Jose Bank, Banana Republic. Zara often has recycled. Yeah, Samuelson we found once. You should know. Yeah, there's more names. I have written down.
Get in flumps. This is
That's one of the best.
Mapelli de Milan.
So this one
Is that okay?
Recycle. Yeah, okay. This is a Zara one that has recycle. Zara has a lot of recycled shoulder pads, like these things. So I took these out. But you also need a tailor to close it up. It really opens up the whole sleeve. And then I have this. Okay, so this, I went to a couch sofa company here in Montreal, and as they said they're selling to Eretz Yisrael, sell to Israel, and in Israel they want to have a teuda, like a certificate that is Shaatnez free. Like in Eretz Yisrael, they have many things they want to know. They have kosher this, kosher that, so they want to have couches are Shaatnez free.
Interesting.
So
This is material couch.
yeah, not
leather.
material. So he wants me to come and see the company and write a teuda. So like this, he doesn't have problems when he sells. So I came there and I looked through everything. It was all good. So I found this, right? So you have the cushion of the couch, then you have springs, and you have a piece covering the springs. That's kind of a. Now, for this, if you don't have this piece, the springs are going to eventually hit the top and it won't feel very good. It's going to go up. So they put this in between. So you have the cushion of the mattress part, sponge part of the couch, you have the material on top, then you have this, then you have the springs here. This stops the springs from going through. So they got a recycled piece. So I told him I can't give a teuda if you use this. I can't, because there are people that those who might be mafkir with this. He didn't want to change; it wasn't worth it for him, so he's still selling with this and that. But if you ask Rabbanim,
He's selling him without it.
yeah, he spoke to his guys there. They said he calculated it's not going to be worth it to use something else. This is very cheap. No. So that's why. You have to ask different Rabbanim, different opinions. I spoke to Rabbi Stern. I don't know I think he's more I don't know. Rabbi Stern said that it's not a problem because it's not able to touch you. It says in Gemara and Halacha that if you're sitting on a carpet that's Shaatnez, it's a problem. Why? Zeiras Chachamim said that it might come up on you. A little thread might come up and then roll on you, and it's going to be a problem. Right? It says even Eser Matzais, even if you have 10 layers, you still shouldn't sit on the top one. The bottom one is Shaatnez. The question is, in a couch, it's all closed in. There's no over there. You could say eventually it could bend on you or something happen. Here, it's all closed in. That's one thing. Another thing is,
but then there's a matzah. There's a hole.
Another thing is, it's depends on how soft the couch is.
Right.
In these cases, you ask the Rav. You decide if you want to.
Chairs.
Yeah, the same thing.
Same board.
Then there's the fabric.
So the fabric itself, it was found that it's linen. So that's a bigger problem than this. This is at the bottom, all the way at the bottom. If you turn over your couch, you'll see something like this. Not every
Check the
couch,
materials of
you'll
chairs.
see like a material with staples. If you look under the couch, stapled on. And if you open that, you'll see inside the springs, and right at the top there's this.
How can you touch Shaatnez if it goes on you? When you're touching it, it's on you.
So it has to be as a garment. It has to be as there to warm you up for anah. So even if I'm checking something and it's found to be Shaatnez, and now I'm picking out the Shaatnez, I can have it on my feet because it's not there as enjoying it. It's not there as benefiting it. When you're sitting on a couch, you want to be on the couch. When you're sitting on the carpet, you want to be on the carpet. So if it comes up on you, it's part of what you want. Here, you're just handling it, you're not using it. Okay, that's that. Now we have over here This is a winter hat. This is the inside of the winter hat. You don't see the winter hat anymore. But so this is from someone that went to Ukraine before the war, and by one of the, I don't know which paper, which corner they were selling Russian winter hats, So we got this check. I looked inside here, stuffing here. The tween has wool and linen inside here. The blue
Interline.
Yeah. So that has wool and linen. So we have to take this out and put in a new piece of.
What did it say on the tag?
Didn't say
It's
anything.
not tax from Ukraine.
Ukraine. Didn't say any. No, there was a tag.
100% fur.
See, this tag is still here. Doesn't say anything.
It says in Chinese.
Just numbers. No, it's not like it says in Russian something. You go look. It doesn't say any kind of material.
So
Yeah.
the rabbi
So-
actually gave it to me.
No, this is not the same one.
Not the same one.
No,
Oh, because
That
he
one, I
didn't
don't know
want to
what
fix it. I gave it to someone else to fix.
it never came to me. This is someone else.
It's not one Nelkin. This is Nelkin.
No,
No.
I should say the names.
No, don't send me.
Okay.
Like it, fine.
Okay, winter hats, cycle.
What's with your winter
Okay.
hats? Are okay? Your winter hats. That's what I
They
wear.
are okay.
I
I
have
can
one.
always check them for you, but my uncle makes them. He literally goes there and
Okay, good,
cuts.
good.
You go there, you see him with his apron, he's doing it. He puts a polyester filling. So
Winter hat only if it's
his name is
Huh?
Rabbi Moshe Krasnanski.
They
He
sell
has
winter hats.
Almar hats. And he
They
makes
sell winter hats. You know they sell winter fur hats.
What?
You like the doctor?
That's fur hats.
Somehow.
I wear them.
Not clear. I asked him once. He said, I don't know. He said, it's all the
Oh
same.
no, I wear
color."
their hats. I wear fur hats. Very good.
Okay, so I can tell you just how do you check, right? I'm not teaching you how to check, but how is it checked?
Right.
So there's two ways to know what a material is. One way is tvias ayin, your eye. Right? So we all know that this is, let's say, wool, and here we know this is not the same thing. It's like a plastic. This is polyester, whatever. So when you work with materials a lot, eventually you build an eye for it. It looks like, and you can also separate it. There are those who burn a little thread. You could even chew it. You can tell if it's cotton, it melts. If it's linen, it's more chewy, whatever. I don't do that, but that's what you could do. That's what we learned. We learned that when we learned this. And then there's the microscope. Once you put it in the microscope, it gets very clear. It's like see it clearly what it is. So microscope is used when you can't tell. You see, oh, this looks like linen. Just to verify, put it in the microscope. So I could show how it looks in the microscope. What time is it?
110.
Depends. You could put. I usually use this one here. Not sure it doesn't even say. 300 times. So here, I'll show you how it looks. So linen looks in the microscope like a bamboo, and wool has like scales. It's a hair. Oh, yeah. Here, you see it? This would be bamboo in the microscope.
Yeah.
Linen looks like bamboo, and the wool would have like scales, like almost like a fish. Right? You asked me. I should know these things. I don't know. I would just learn to use this one, and that's it. I'm not a scientist, but there is one of the Shaatnez testers. He does all types of things. Does checks blood for certain things. Like uses the microscope in all kinds of ways. I just know exactly what's needed for the materials. So I'll end off with a story, and then I'll put some samples in here. You can see how it looks. Okay. So the story goes like this. The story. Every time I hear different details, so I'll say it without any details. I don't know what the exact details are. It was after the Second World War, and this man's father went through the war, and he had with him all along a jacket. And he gave it to me. He said, "Look, this went through Yehenim and everything. I'll wear this." And he was wearing it. One day, after his father passed away, someone told him you should get checks for Shaatnez. Shaatnez, no Shaatnez today. You should get checked for Shaatnez. Kept pressuring him to check it for Shaatnez. He said, okay, I got to check for Shaatnez. You got to check for Shaatnez. So the tester that was checking, saw there's something thick by the shoulder pad. So you cut it open, and money came out. Money. Okay, it's not Shaatnez, but some money, right? It's very thick, very heavy. Another by the pocket, it's also thick. Cut it open, money. Eventually, it was a lot of money in this jacket. So it turns out that, not sure how it works, as father didn't tell him exactly about this part, but he was hiding money throughout the war inside the jacket. If he wouldn't have checked for Shaatnez, he would never find all this money. So sometimes you see the reward of the mitzvahs and Gashmis right away.
Yeah.
That's a cute mitzvah there. Story. Now I'm going to just.
Well, it's like the Mitzvah.
It's without details.
It's like
The
the
details
Mitzvah.
sound more real. Something like cashmere, yeah? It's cashmere wool. What's cashmere?
Chinese, Mongolian,
Mongolian goat.
yeah.
It's from a goat.
Right.
Yeah. So a goat is not a sheep, right? So if you know it's really cashmere, then there's no problem with cashmere with linen. The problem today is that they're selling cashmere. It's not really cashmere. It's refined wool, like more refined wool with a little bit of cashmere or whatever. So it's really wool. So we have to treat cashmere like wool, not because cashmere. The only way you'll know if it's really cashmere is the price.
Right.
It has to be really expensive to be
Right.
cashmere.
Yeah.
You can't have a cheap thing that says cashmere.
Yeah.
They need, I think, five goats to make one sweater.
Right.
The hair. So
Right.
they have these cheap things that says cashmere.
What about mohair?
Mohair is also a goat. That's okay.
What's about gloves that have like wool lining in it?
So they should be checked. There was even baseball gloves that were found with Shaatnez inside. Yeah. I'll just put a little sample here. Wool and a sample of linen. This is light, extra light olive oil. Olive oil. You need an oil. It could be any oil. You need some kind of. You need an oil that's very.
It's fascinating.
You need an oil that's very light. See through it. You want to see through the fibers.
Can't use mineral oil.
If it's not dark, yeah, you can use that. Okay, so we have a sample of wool over here. I'm going to put some linen in this one. You have to take a drop. Okay, here we go. Cover here. This is a microscope slide. These are the covers. Now we need to plug this in.
Can you just
Oh, there's someone watching?
Yeah, Perry.
Hello,
He's asked him to see the thing, but I don't know how do you get it to stay down.
You have to ask Rabbi Shach, I don't believe.
Right.
Can you see something? Yeah, he sees now a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll start with the wool. Again, it looks like a line with scales like that. Get some light. You could leave your glasses or take it off.
Human hair also looks like this, no?
Yeah. Human hair also has scales. It's harder to. It's not working out. Oh. Oh, so I think we got mixed up here. I'm supposed to clean clean it really well. So we have wool and linen together. It's good. You'll see the contrast. So you'll have some that look like bamboo and some that have these little scales. And let me get a good picture. See this one here. It is. Okay, here you'll see just linen here, and then after I'll show the wool. Here, want to see? Sure. You have to get the focus, unless you're used to it. So that's wool. That's linen, right? Looks like bambooish, like woody. So that's linen, and I'll show wool. Let's yeah.
Oh, wow.
Those are linen fibers.
On the left or in both?
They're both the same.
Oh, okay.
You have to get it the focus. You put both eyes there. You're up, close one.
Oh, okay.
No, you
Or
could.
can see other one.
Right? Yes.
The width of the.
Oh, wow.
See it?
It's harder with both, I find.
Yeah. You see something or you can't see?
I see fibers, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch it to
They
the
look like
mixed.
hairs.
Yeah, to the mixed one. So you could try to identify which ones are wool, which ones are linen. Yeah, you can't do this the whole day.
Yeah, Perry's
Okay, now you have
Yeah, but
wool.
he's done. We're done.
You'll see wool and linen. Look at that. You see wool and linen together. You have to.
Oh, wow.
You see the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very clear. If you have any questions.
One is like a snake and the other one's like bamboo.
Every fiber has cashmere and wool are very close, even in the microscope. So you really have to be
Fascinating.
very hard. You can take out your glasses, it might be easier. Are you able to focus? I can open it.
Try one eye.
Want me to check your jacket?
Yeah.
Or just do it.
Could be an expensive. Oh, I don't even have a note in here. Look.
Oh, you don't have?
It's look the same, straight.
Yeah. Oh, this is. Yeah, this is a German engineered suit. Not German, not that. German engineered suit. You see here, it's all open.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need to do much. I can just go right in.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you
What does
go
it say on the
that-
label?
It's 92%.